Welcome back, loony listeners. You are listening to Into the Night, a Moon Knight podcast. This is episode 40. And so this week we've got something a little different. Our co-host and High Priest of Khonshu is away at a convention, but we have a very special guest tonight. So, no need to grab your issues out. Just sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. Alright, loony listeners, we are here for a very different episode 40 of Into the Night. Due to some scheduling difficulties, I wouldn't say difficulties, I'll say challenges, with getting a couple of cool loonies on our show, we've decided to push back our review of Moon Knight Vol.1, issue 194, the latest from Max Bemis. So in the interim, I thought it would be really cool and fresh off guesting on his show, Sons of the Dragon, I thought it would be pretty cool to have host Connor on the show, not to be confused with Connor Shu. So, yes, welcome Connor, how are you?
Good, thank you. How are you?
Yeah, good. I'm very excited and very happy to have you on the show tonight. We've got something a little different in flavour, but as I mentioned to Connor before, we are at the Grant Mansion here. Splendid interior decorated, mansion. Knight's armours, in the hallway. We have chandeliers, burgundy, such and such. It's fantastic here, Connor, and I cannot think of a better place to have a sit down with you and just a bit of a chat.
Yeah, it's slightly creepy though, but
it is. Yeah, don't worry. I hope everything's all above board here. Anyway,
it'll be fine. Nothing eventful happens here, right? So
no. Yeah, look, while Mark's away and Connor Shu's away, we've got the mansion to ourselves. So, I'm going to pour myself a wine, and you can have a wine or a whiskey too, and we'll sit down and just have a bit of a chin wag. So Connor, first off, and I know that we have recently almost wrapped up, I guess, the Damnation crossover event that crossed over our podcasts, as well as Inner Demons, a Ghost Rider podcast, and Defenders TV podcast. How did you find that event as a whole? Like, we'll cover it in the roundtable discussion, but I just wanted to get your thoughts. How did you find the whole inter-podcast experience?
I can talk about the podcast experience.
Yeah.
I'll go on for ages if we're talking about how I felt about Damnation. But the podcast, I really enjoyed it. It felt great collaborating with other people, other characters. Yeah. And I haven't been listening to much podcasts lately, so it gave me an excuse, and it was really awesome learning about, unfortunately not so much Moon Knight as Scarlet Spider. Yeah. But, also learning about Doctor Strange was fantastic, and it was really awesome. I think the podcast crossover was better than Damnation itself.
Look, I'd have to agree with you in some regards there as well. I really enjoyed the podcast crossover as well. It was really fun. It's not typically easy to kind of get 4 podcasts to schedule in together, but we managed to. We were lucky enough to everyone to be on board, and there was some scheduling conflicts as well because such is life. So we weren't able to really cross-pollinate hosts here and there, not until the end at least. But at least we've got this roundtable thing coming up, which will be pretty cool. Further to that, I guess. So we know that you really do like Iron Fist. I mean, you've got an Iron Fist podcast.
But he's okay.
He's okay.
Yeah, he's all right. Whatever.
Yeah. But let's go back a bit, right, kind of to the beginning at least. And I just wanted to ask first off the bat, like, how did you get into comics in general?
Well, I was a kid obviously, and my mum was a Superman fan. Like, she liked the Christopher Reeve movies.
Oh, fantastic.
And she got this sort of trade paperback Superman in the 50s, and I read the crap out of that, and that was easily the craziest era for Superman. He's dressing up and whacking people and stuff, and different colors of kryptonite. Mr. McSpitlick. So I as a kid I read that. It was, very colorful, always things happening. I enjoyed that. And then when I was growing up as a teenager, do you remember when Marvel used to do essential collections?
Yeah, the black and white ones.
Yeah, the big black and white ones. So we got pretty much the full Stan Lee Spider-Man run and a bit beyond. So Stan Lee and Steve Ditko and John Romita Sr. Mm-hmm. And that's what really got me hooked onto comics. Like, when I started going, oh, these are awesome, because those comics, like, if you're an awkward teenager, that era of Spider-Man is, I think it's perfect. Yeah, it's like the most relatable thing ever.
No, true. And so you were supported by your mum with comic collecting? Like, was she actively into it as well?
No.
Oh, okay.
No, it was just something she picked up and thought it'd be fun. I ended up getting more use out of it than her. Yeah,
right. And no doubt you watched, as you mentioned, growing up and stuff, you watched all the Superman movies and all that?
Well, yeah, I watched the Christopher Reeve Superman movies, and I watched the Michael Keaton Batman movies, and then what's that director's name? He did Falling Down.
Joel Schumacher?
Yes, when Joel Schumacher took over from Tim Burton. I watched those as well.
Oh, God, did you? Oh, God. Yeah.
I was a kid, so I thought they were good.
True.
Now I think they're garbage. Oh, the Tim Burton ones are fantastic.
Yes, they still hold up. Yeah.
So I watched Superman and Batman, but I read Spider-Man. And, I would get the occasional Superman comics and read them when I was growing up. But mostly I would just read those Spider-Man essentials, like those first 5 or 6 volumes, just over and over again. Yeah.
That's That's pretty cool that Spider-Man kind of still remained in your wheelhouse, because around that time, as you're talking about Christopher Reeve and Michael Keaton's Batman as well, like DC were hammering it with the films back then. Like Superman, Christopher Reeve was, and I saw that when I was young as well. I remember as a family as well, we kind of watched that, and my mum swooned over Christopher Reeve, because he was a bit of a hunk, and Batman was that was in my early high school years, and that was, I think that was prime, because it was darker, it was a bit edgier, a bit kooky with Tim Burton, but again DC just smashed it out of the park with Batman from Tim Burton. Yeah,
well, interesting note on that is, because people look at those Tim Burton movies today and they probably think they're campy, but they really weren't that campy at all, especially for the time, because at that time, Batman, in like public consciousness, people thought of Adam West.
Yeah. Yep.
And these movies were like as far as you could get from Adam West. Obviously, in the comics at that point, like, you'd had Dark Knight Returns, and it was all, but yeah. And like even Superman the movie, when it came out, that was like a pretty serious movie. Still is, until you get up to Lex Luthor. Dramatic tonal shift there.
I remember Superman 3. I love Superman 2 because, as a kid, is it General Zod and the two others? I mean, those, like, to have 3 beings as strong as Superman fighting, that was my, that was the pinnacle for me as a little kid. It's like, okay, Superman's so strong. Damn it, he's got 3 people as strong as him. And the third one I was about to say, Superman 3 with Richard Pryor.
Yes.
I was actually...
Controversial.
How so? Like...
Oh, well, a lot of people hate it.
Yeah, well, I didn't really rate it that high myself. But I haven't seen it in ages. I've got it on Blu-ray. My partner's brother gave it to me. And I remember being really scared when there's that scene where that woman gets... turned into a robot or something. You know how she...
Oh, that was so messed up.
It was. As a little kid, that freaked me out. Like, it's so funny.
I watched that recently, and that's like, it's this weird, grotesque, violent sequence in this pretty, like, probably the most lighthearted of the Chris Reeves movies, has this really weird, messed up sequence where, she's got, like, those stuff going into her eyes and stuff. And it's just... I
think I had nightmares from that. I mean, it's funny talking about it now, like, you know, but back then it really did affect me. But yeah, no, they were great movies, and Tim Burton's Batman, although as you're saying was slightly campy, I mean, it still was like heaps dark. Like, if I remember as well, Cobblepot was a Danny DeVito as Penguin. Like,
there was some really gross
really
stuff.
Freaky character. Yeah, and when he kind of keeled over at the end and he had this black stuff coming out of his mouth.
The bile.
Yeah.
And then you have, like, the Penguin army marching, so it just, like, goes all over the place in terms of tone.
Yeah.
I love it, though. I mean, there was that whole thing where, like, they couldn't sell toys because it was too violent, and it got the M rating. And I'm pretty sure it's the first, or PG-13 in America, but I'm pretty sure that's the first, you know, mainstream superhero movie to ever get an M rating.
Yeah. So, I mean,
so
really, really, really dark stuff. Did you watch any animated stuff, like to complement your comic collecting and your movie watching?
See, that's the thing. I'm part of that infuriating generation called 90s kids who just won't shut up about Dragon Ball Z and how awesome their childhood was with Cheese TV. Shut up. Anyway, I never really watched any of the cartoons. I watched whatever Spider-Man ones were on, so the 90s Spider-Man cartoon and the 90s Ultimate Spider-Man, where he's in the future.
Yeah.
I watched those whenever they were on, but
you never got into the X-Men. They were huge back in the 90s.
No, they were massive. I never watched X-Men.
Yeah, right. Yeah, they kind of. I kind of was past that point around that time. I was following the comics actively for X-Men. X-Men were big in my wheelhouse back then, but I kind of had stopped watching animated stuff then, so I never really did watch much of the X-Men animated stuff. But I thought the whole fanfare of X-Men around that time would have been massive, and interesting that you weren't kind of influenced or taken in with it.
I mean, I didn't watch it. None of my friends watched it. I mean, I went to a really small school, I guess, but like I had 10 classmates. But just never. Was there a small school and all? Was there a big comic culture in there, or? Oh no,
no. Okay.
I was probably the only person that, like, even in high school, I was like the only person that read comics.
Oh, really?
So. Yeah, I didn't really grow up with anyone who was into that stuff.
Did you try making comics or writing or drawing comics when you were young?
Yeah, I wrote Pigman.
Oh, awesome! That sounds good. Immediately, I'd read that. Pigman. Yeah, cool.
Sure they've been lost to the ages by now, but I mean, you can probably figure out what is a pig. Yeah, he was a pig dressed up that went around saving people and punching things. Don't even know why I made Pigman, honestly. I think I was just bored. Just killing time.
You could actually make... I'm not sure what tone it had, but you could actually take that in a real dark tone as well. Like, have a...
Oh, I did.
Oh, you did? Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome.
People would die, like... Yeah. It was, it was really weird. I don't know. Maybe I should ask the doctor about that.
Oh, geez, you're gonna have to dig up some of the old material. I during high school as well, there was only a small band of friends that had were into comics in there as well. We actually had a little series. There were 4 of us, and we all drew our own comics, and we did a similar to this podcast crossover. We had a crossover event, which was pretty cool. And my team was Lotus, hopelessly overpowered characters, because back then I think I really loved overpowered characters, and the more powerful the better. So I had this guy that could basically do anything. Like he gets hurt. It kind of took a leaf out of the Incredible Hulk, Lou Ferrigno and Bill Bixby. So so if he got hurt in any way, he could turn the pain he receives on his nerves into any sort of power. So it was just terribly overpowered. And the team was called Lotus, and it was meant to kind of be like S.H.I.E.L.D., but I never got round to figuring out what the letters stood for. So, those kind of like half-baked ideas when you're young.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I mean, like I guess much like yourself, writing and creating a comic kind of went hand in hand around that age when you were collecting as well. Because around that young age, the creative juices are really flowing, and you kind of want to get into it. You want to participate, and I see that kind of with a lot of comic collectors. Also, I mean, I wanted to ask, so from comic collecting, how did you kind of get into Iron Fist as a fan?
Well, I was hiking through the Himalayas, and there was a storm, and I ended up in this mystical city.
Yeah.
And no, that didn't actually happen.
With Jessica Henwick?
Henwick, yes.
Henwick, yeah.
She looks so much like an old friend of mine, it's crazy.
Oh, really?
Yeah, no, so every time, old friend that, not on great terms, so every time I see her on screen, it's like, it's kind of like looking at an ex.
Tainted, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, not really tainted, but just like,
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah, but, no, probably not the biggest surprise, but I got into Iron Fist through martial arts. I was doing martial arts, and where did I come across Iron Fist initially?
Through Spider-Man, somehow, maybe, or no?
I'd seen him in Deadpool.
Yeah.
I know that, because, that's the other thing. Before I got into Iron Fist, I was big into Deadpool. So, Deadpool was probably the biggest gateway besides Spider-Man when it came to like learning about other characters.
What do you think?
Good Deadpool, I mean, not Daniel Way. So.
Oh, I don't think I read Daniel. Joe Kelly, you mean, and Jerry Duggan?
Yes, yes, exactly. Joe Kelly, that era.
Very good.
The classic era, but so I got into him. I picked up Immortal Iron Fist. I devoured that. And because that was a very training heavy period in my life, all I'd do is eat, sleep, and train. Mm-hmm. And
what martial arts were you doing?
Tungstado. So it's a Korean martial art similar to Taekwondo, but there's some Hapkido in there, which is like a lot of like wrist locks and stuff.
Okay, cool.
Grappling work. And also more focus on upper body. Like, we do all the kicks they do, but, we focus on upper body a lot as well. So elbows, punches, stuff like that.
Yeah.
So, I'm still part of the organization. I just haven't been training much the past couple of years. Much to the chagrin of the master, though, who's like, hey, can you train more this year? I probably should go. But, anyway, so I was I've been doing that for a couple of years at that point. And that's how I got into Iron Fist. Because, I don't know, I just felt... It just sort of clicked.
Yeah.
I just read it, and it was just really my bag. I loved it, and the Immortal run had a lot of throwback to, like, 30s and 40s Hulk stories and stuff, especially in the character of Orson Randall. So, I really got into that. Yeah. And then I'm like, okay... Then I just read Iron Fist from the start all the way to the end.
Wow. Far out. I mean, like, just to put a pin on that little thought there about you saying there's a lot of 30s and 40s and going back to the old one as well. You did jump onto, I guess, a very cool run. I guess a lot of people, and you can probably speak to this as well, Connor, from your show and stuff. I guess the Immortal Iron Fist is seen as quite the seminal run for Iron Fist by Matt Fraction, and is it David Ayer?
Ed Brubaker, Fraction, and David Ayer.
Okay. Yeah, it's a fantastic run. Yeah, but I can imagine you falling in love with Iron Fist after reading that. That was really cool. And what I wanted to say with, just as you were saying, it harked a lot back to the 30s and 40s. And listening to your podcast for quite a while now, I know that you do kind of lean towards the more classic, older school kind of comics.
Yeah.
Like you mentioned, I've noted, I remember a lot of conversations with Carl saying that, I went through this modern comic in about 2 minutes, and there's no substance to it, and how you kind of really appreciate the older comics. So, what I wanted to say, and it surprised me, I thought you would have picked it up from the old, like from the 70s and such. But no, that's really good. So you read through all of them, like you went all the way back and read. Have you started a collection, or are you on trades?
Yep, I have every Iron Fist trade you can actually get.
Awesome.
I have not started. I have the first 2 issues, Marvel Premiere 15 and 16 of Iron Fist.
Wow.
As floppies.
Yep.
But I just don't have the money to collect single issues, so I've just chosen trades instead, and even that is like crazy.
Yeah.
But Iron Fist has been the easiest to collect because he has the least amount of trades there.
Right. Do you know how many direct floppies he's like for series? How many issues in total you'd have to get for Iron Fist? Or?
Well, they've done that Marvel Legacy numbering, which helps a bit. So
yes, of course.
For his own title, like books where he is like the only star, so there's been 80 issues, but then you have Power Man and Iron Fist,
which
and
I'd include came in as well.
Pardon?
Oh, which I'd include, right, as well. I mean, there's some really good arcs in that, aren't there? For
they're not included in the Legacy numbering though.
Okay, right.
But he came in issue 48. And that run ended in 125. So
wow,
that's a
fair slab there, and
big slab.
Yeah, and there's a bit of news here as well. I guess we were just talking a bit earlier off air. Kind of you set a poll for what run to do next for Sons of the Dragon, the Immortal Iron Fist podcast, and what was it?
We're going to do the full Power Man and Iron Fist run, so get your 70s on, baby. We're going there. And then the 80s, because the run goes on for that long. So
yeah, I mean, that'll be a fantastic journey, and anyone who is an Iron Fist fan, and in particular who does like that run, for sure jump on board to Sons of the Dragon and check that out. That'll be pretty cool to listen to reviews of all the issues there. Fantastic.
Yeah. And I recommend, before if you do start listening to Power Man and Iron Fist, I recommend you check out our coverage of the classic Iron Fist run, because Power Man and Iron Fist pretty much just continues from that.
Right. Yes.
Because ratings were suffering, so they essentially combined the characters. So heaps of plot threads from that classic Iron Fist run continued in Power Man and Iron Fist.
Yeah.
So yeah, it'll be interesting. Because that is like the next 2 to 3 years. It's just going to be Power Man and Iron Fist. So
that's it. And also, I was just thinking, just collecting wise as well, just taking a step back again. Because with Moon Knight, say for instance, I think one of the perks of Moon Knight is that it is achievable. Like there are a fair few loonies probably listening now and out there in our group who actually have attained the entire collection of Moon Knight. With directly involved, series and books, not cameos. There are actually some loonies out there that have got all the Moon Knight and are currently hunting down all the appearances in all of that.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so, but I think if you compare them to, like, obviously Spider-Man or Daredevil, the likes of... Yeah, exactly. The likes of Iron Fist and Moon Knight, I reckon it is achievable. It is a long-term goal. But even like getting the trades, I think is really achievable as well. And similar with Iron Fist, it's the same with Moon Knight. Like I'm concentrating on the trades, and I reckon it will be like a lifetime ongoing thing to pick up floppies where I can and get the series.
Yeah,
but definitely achievable as opposed to like even Daredevil. That's just crazy, the amount of stuff that.
Yeah, there's especially I mean. There is stories that come up now and then with those Superman fans who are really crazy or really crazy and have a lot of money, and they'll just have these huge collections. Yeah. Which you can never really get to with Moon Knight or Iron Fist. I don't think you could fill a room with Moon Knight and Iron Fist stuff.
No, it'd be a pretty small room, I think. So
yeah, like a closet, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, well, I mean, we'll talk more about, I guess, other characters that you like as well, but just jumping again from where we were talking about Sons of the Dragon, the podcast that you have. How did that come about? Like, so let me just say, and let me slightly fanboy here, Connor, while I can. Look, one of the I don't know, the great things that has happened for me, like in podcasting this year, is this podcasting crossover event that we've had, and Defenders. I would cite Defenders and Sons of the Dragon as one of the two main influences. For actually starting a podcast and going for Moon Knight. So always wanted to do a character-based one. I loved what the boys were doing over at Defenders TV podcast. You yourself know how good they are. Yeah. But then, like, your podcast was... like, you know, I'm sure there are hundreds of ones out there for, you know, I don't know, Daredevil and Batman and such. But, you know, Iron Fist, a really cool, you know, second-tier character... You actually had a podcast, which was your podcast, and I found that really cool. So I just wanted to say, yeah, like a huge influence actually starting Into the Night was actually through listening to Sons of the Dragon. So have to tip my hats off to you there, Connor.
Thank you very much. It feels really good to hear that.
Yeah, I mean it's fantastic. Like keep doing what you're doing, and you know, there might be a lot of lurkers, you know, out there as well. Like we've talked about off air about stats and viewerships and stuff. But there's probably like heaps of like people that just listen to it and it's important to them, but they just don't, you know, they don't clock in or whatever. So really cool. So anyway, went off a bit of a tangent there, but
no, that's fine.
But Sons of the Dragon. So how did you start it? Like, who were your influences, and what was the day when you said, "Yep, I'm going to start a podcast"?
Well, similar to you. Well, not that was my own influence. That would make any sense. But the guy who really helped me start it and everything is J. David Weeder. I've plugged him on the show a couple of times. He did a Daredevil podcast, which I pretty much listened to all of until he started covering the Charles Soule run. Because oh god, that's a can of worms right there. This isn't Dave's fault. This is like the Charles Soule run and what's happened with the Daredevil character. But I mean. So I listen to all of his podcasts, and I'm like, wow, this is awesome. I wrote in a couple of times, just like you wrote into me. Yeah. So, it's very much the same story. And I listened to another more meta podcast that covered more of everything called Trennis Magnus Punches Reality, which is a great podcast. And that's where I learned I could just be really angry on the air and still, like, have people not write me hate mail. So, as you can guess from the name, Trennis Magnus Punches Reality is probably a bit of a ranty show. But so I got in touch with Dave, and I'm like, hey, how do I set up a podcast? And he helped me set it up and everything.
Oh, wow.
He pointed me to like the MP3 recorder and stuff like that. I'm not in like heaps of contact with him right now or anything, because I'm sure his life's pretty busy and stuff. But so like I even stole his format.
Oh, really?
I told him I stole his format.
Yeah.
So it's all, but because I had no idea how to do a podcast about a character.
Yeah.
So I'm like, well, I want to do for Iron Fist what this guy has done for Daredevil.
Yeah.
It's an amazing Daredevil podcast. I want to do that for Iron Fist. I want to talk to people about Iron Fist as well.
Yeah.
Like, that was one of the main reasons I started this podcast, because I wanted to have conversations with other people who liked Iron Fist.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And I don't know if you know the Iron Fist page on Facebook.
I haven't looked at it that much, no.
Well, there's
not your one. Sorry, I look at yours. Not if there's an official Iron Fist one. I don't know.
The there's a big Iron Fist fan page on Facebook, and I still am a moderator there because I'll share my podcast. But I used to be very active on there under the Bob Diamond pseudonym, who's a minor Iron Fist character, and so that also got me hungry.
Sorry, Connor, is that the one with the dude in the cosplay as the profile picture? Is that the Iron Fist group?
I don't think so.
Oh, okay, no, right. Yeah,
it has like 15,000 likes or something at this point.
Wow.
So that I was active on there to sort of try and fill that Iron Fist discussion void, but then I ended up just like, I was like, not enough people are responding to my Trivia Tuesdays, so I want to start a podcast. And
what was the year?
Very similar to you.
Yeah, what was the year that you started?
Oh man,
it was a while, wasn't it? Like you're up to 70 odd now.
Yeah, we haven't. There's been a couple of periods where we've been on break for about a month or so.
Yeah.
Just because crap happens. God, I'll just get up all the way back to. Oh yeah, and through that Iron Fist page, that's where I got my co-host. I put out a call on that page. Like, who wants to co-host? And Carl responded, and he sent me a horror podcast.
Oh,
he did. And I'm a big fan of horror myself, so...
as in horror comics or horror movie?
Horror movies, but horror movies from like the 70s and 80s, so good ones.
Cool. That was where I was heading towards next, I guess, about how you knew Carl and Rebecca. That's great. Was there a screening process when or did Carl come to? So Carl came to you, right? Was there? Did you try to test him on his knowledge and?
Oh no, I didn't.
I don't know.
I shouldn't even think of that. I guess I just assumed he'd be fine. And he was. Yeah. He's very knowledgeable. I love having Carl as a co-host. He's very knowledgeable about certain things. I'm knowledgeable about certain. It's a great combo.
He's a serious collector as well, isn't he?
Oh yeah, I think he has all of the Iron Fist single issues. Nice. But yeah, no, because there was a really nice lady who wanted to co-host with me, and she was a really awesome fan, but she barely spoke English, so unfortunately, it was never to be.
One of the challenges, especially of a podcast, an audio podcast. So, that's a shame. But Rebecca, how did you come across Rebecca?
So I can't. I believe. I'm sorry, Rebecca, if I get these details wrong, because it was Carl who recruited Rebecca. Because, and everyone knows who Rebecca is because she's on your show too. So,
oh yes,
I
think we stole it from you. So,
yeah, she was very active on our Facebook page, I believe.
Yep.
Because I don't manage the Facebook page that much. That's more Carl. And now Rebecca, I do all like the Twitter and everything else. So I think she was pretty active, and then she started posting on the page for us. You keep page active and stuff, and then I think one day Carl was like, "Oh yeah, let's have Rebecca on an episode with us." I'm like, "Yep, good idea." And just kept since then.
That's great that you did come across Rebecca as well, because through different channels actually. Connor and myself, ITK Connor, had come across Rebecca through just a general comic book Facebook group.
Oh wow!
Such. Yeah, she was quite active. She just knows her stuff, and she's just passionate about the stuff, which is really, you're on a winner when you engage with someone who really cares about what they read and cares about their characters, not just for the sake of... So we were very lucky to bump into Rebecca, and we keep in contact with her as well. And I remember actually when she was telling me, like, oh, hey, I've met these guys from doing an Iron Fist podcast, and I might just drop in every now and again.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And now she's a like a regular member, really, isn't she?
She's an official host.
For sure. Yeah, that's true, because, I remember the early days when she would, pop in when she could, and because you and Carl, in essence, started it, right? So, but... It's good. It's good. It's really, really good comic book friend to have. I think, Rebecca. So it's I think we're both very lucky with that.
Yeah, and the best thing is, I think all of us are, Carl, Rebecca, and I are all very passionate about different aspects of Iron Fist.
Yeah.
I really love whenever they use Chinese mythology, I really love that.
Yeah, fantastic.
Because I love, stuff like Journey to the West. And
perfect.
Along with Carl, we both love we've both done martial arts, so we love the real martial art aspect of the comics. Carl's very knowledgeable about comics from that era as well. And Rebecca's really into the character of Danny Rand, and stuff, and she's very knowledgeable about all the new Marvel stuff. So I think it's a really good combination between all three of us. Yeah,
it's a great mix,
and we can fill in gaps and we disagree on a lot, but we don't kill each other, so that's good too.
Well, yeah, what I do like is that dynamic that you have, because you're right. I mean, you guys have lively conversation on the podcast, but it's never. You might have your views, you might have strong views, and you might both kind of lock horns, but at the end of the day, you're all Iron Fist fans, and it's all for the better of it. You kind of learn off each other. So, that's...
Carl's mean to me.
How is he? Okay.
Yeah, actually, I've noticed listening to you guys, it's like a utopia over here compared to my podcast. You guys get along great.
Oh, yeah, I know. Well, I mean... As well, we try to take a leap as well. Like when things are bad, in a comic or whatever, we want to call it out as well. I mean, there's no point in sugarcoating everything, So, like recently we did the Infinity War tie-ins of Moon Knight, and there was one for Infinity Crusade, which Connor and I, both agreed was just, god awful, and after rereading it. Years after having read it first, it hasn't changed a bit. It hasn't matured over all this time. So, we try and do that. But it's a good dynamic you have going over there at Sons of the Dragon. I wanted also then to ask you, Connor, as well. I mean, having spoken about Sons of the Dragon, Iron Fist, and your hosts as well. With Moon Knight in particular, did he come across your path, or was there any interest for Moon Knight through any particular era when you were collecting comics, or how did you first get into? How did you first know about him? I guess not necessarily get into him because it's. I'm not sure if you're a total fan or not, but what's your take on Moon Knight?
I definitely like Moon Knight. He's just, he's in terms of reading about characters, he's just low on the pecking order for me, because there's, the next two guys on my list, Silver Surfer.
Ooh.
And I've got to commit to, because I've read a lot of the Fantastic Four appearances, and I adore Silver Surfer.
Yeah.
But it's just a time thing.
Yeah.
And the other one is Hellblazer, John Constantine, because I've been told by everyone, Connor, this is the perfect comic for you. This is everything you want in a comic. So
really,
I've just because I'm a big fan of horror, and especially street level, occult stuff.
Yep.
I love the show Supernatural. I love X-Files. I love the show Constantine as well.
What do you think of the movie with Keanu Reeves?
Well, I love Keanu Reeves. I do recognize that he's a bit similar, but he's American for one. But I thought the movie was a pretty good romp.
I loved it actually. I ended up.
Can we do spoilers for the movie here?
Oh, for sure. That's an old one. It's an old one, isn't it? So yeah, for sure.
Yeah. When he's ascending to heaven and he just gives the devil the finger as he's going up the tunnel of light, I lost it. That was fantastic.
Oh yeah, that was good. That was perfect. Yeah.
No, it was a good movie.
I enjoyed it. It was one of the movies that really didn't do, I guess, that well in the box office, but it was one of the ones that my friends and I went out going, Hell yeah, that was awesome. Because I didn't know much about the comic, right? I didn't know the inconsistencies with his appearance or whatever. But similar to you, I love the occult kind of thing. I love the fact that he was prepared, you know, towards the beginning of the movie. He knows what to do, you know, with there's a possessed girl. I just love that kind of that surety that he had.
Yeah.
And and the angels and stuff. That's up the wheelhouse. That's like Ghost Rider kind of like.
Oh
you
yeah.
know? Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm also getting through Judge Dredd case files, which is another easy task. But back to Moon Knight though. So the short answer is I think he's an interesting character. Mm-hmm. He seems like a very daunting character. To try and get into.
He's very the good and the bad, I guess, about Moon Knight, and we've had discussions with other loonies as well, is that each time he's kind of redone in a new volume, like with a new creative team, he's done quite differently, or they take one like aspect, like no pun intended, of Moon Knight and they run with that. And so you tend to get a very different Moon Knight each and every time, which is a good thing in the sense that it does flesh him out. But there are a lot of fans that would love that consistency, you know, would like to see him exactly like he was in the Houston run in 2006, this dark, grim and gritty character, and just see him kind of carried throughout, you know. There are a lot of people that don't like the Bendis, which I know that you have a hate relationship with Bendis, Connor.
Well, yeah, I mean...
what he did to Iron Fist, at least, you know, it's exactly what he's done to
Iron Fist, I hate Bendis, yes.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's daunting in the sense that he keeps on getting changed, but you can flip it and say that, well, you know, if you jump into, say, this latest volume 9 with the Bemis run, you can kind of separate yourself from what was happening before. Like, you know a sense of him. As you mentioned as well, we had a discussion before, you kind of know the crux of Moon Knight. You know the basic thing about him in multiple personalities and all that. Yeah, so you run with that, but each volume's quite different. So it can be daunting, I guess, is what I'm saying. But on the flip side, it can be refreshing each time you kind of read him. And you mentioned that Shadowland was the first bit, yeah? So
which is a similar... Shadowland, I guess, is kind of a similar crossover to Damnation. Instead of Mephisto's realm popping up in Las Vegas, you know, Daredevil just like pops up a bunch of hand fortress buildings in the middle of Hell's Kitchen.
Yeah,
and it even had like the one Ghost Rider issue, and then he got totally owned. Although he didn't even do anything after that. He just got wrecked. So, but so I read the Moon Knight tie for that. That was like my first time I think I probably even read the character.
Right.
And I was just like, what the hell is going on? he had like 3 different personalities, if I recall. He had this mansion, and he was in Egypt or something. And obviously, like, there was the Khonshu thing. Like, okay, he's a high priest of Khonshu, but it didn't even really didn't really tie into Shadowland. I think it was tying up a plot thread that he'd had. He was like facing an old nemesis or something. So I was pretty in the dark when I read that.
Yeah, it was kind of standalone, wasn't it? Similar to how some of the tie-ins like Scarlet Spider and Iron Fist were for Damnation. Yeah.
I felt like it was bringing back this old Moon Knight character, and they were facing off. And I read it. I just didn't really know what was going on. And my other experience for Moon Knight was in the Marvel Knights run, which had Daredevil and Black Widow, with their hilarious post-breakup interactions. And Moon Knight, ShangChi, and I believe Luke Cage on the team. But the most memorable story from that, besides the cockroach homeless people, is I mean, you might have read it because you read all the Moon Knight stuff, right? They got transported to this different plane of existence, and Daredevil was actually blind there, so Black Widow had to lead him.
Oh, okay.
Through it.
Yeah, it was a long time ago.
But Moon Knight was there with a rocket launcher or something.
Awesome, typical.
Doing his own thing or something. I don't know, but so that's my Moon Knight exposure, really.
Right. Okay. And has it kind of piqued any more interest to experiment or Are you curious about, like, say, the Lemire run or maybe the Warren Ellis run?
Well, I mean, obviously Warren Ellis is considered. Well, he's Warren Ellis. Like, he's considered a really.
Yeah.
He's definitely a staple of like the good comic book writers. So, I mean, your podcast has, I guess, piqued an interest in some Moon Knight stuff just because I feel guilty about like not really knowing much about Moon Knight and stuff, and like doing this crossover and stuff, and like, and you know,
yeah, I mean that's totally fine. So, I mean, I'm lucky as well because I do follow Iron Fist anyway. Like, I've been loving the Brisson run. And I've been getting the floppies for that, and got the Iron Fists, you know, the digital one. That was a lot of fun, quite different, but a lot of fun as well. But yeah, maybe I can recommend a few issues your way, I guess. You've been
give me like a mini or something, or like I'm happy to read it.
I've got one, and we've covered it already on the show. It's a one shot, right, and it's by Mike Benson. And it's pencils by Mike Deodato Jr.
Yep.
And it's a one-shot. I think you'll love it. I love it. I still can't get over it. It's issue 20, I think, of Volume 5, which started off as a Houston run, so about 2006, 2007. It's a one-shot where he fights his old nemesis, Jack Russell, the werewolf. So it's...
Hey, he popped up in Ghost Rider.
Did he? Oh, Jack Russell?
Yeah.
Did he?
70s Ghost Rider on Johnny Blaze.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, nice one. Yeah, I thought you meant the Damnation one-shot of Johnny Blaze. I thought, okay.
No, back in the 70s. Yeah. I just remember because his name was Jack Russell, and I'm like, wow.
Yeah, I know. It's a pretty on-the-nose kind of name. But it's an awesome issue. Okay, I'm going to have to recommend you that and a couple of others as well.
Sure.
Excellent. And actually, speaking of that, because you have been recommending some awesome, I must say, some awesome characters, i.e. one, Superman, to me. Just loonies, just to let you know as well. I've just been talking to Connor about some ideas, and I have, not being a DC person, I think some loonies will probably know, which is a shame. It's not like I hate DC. It's just that I've never had the time to get round to it. I've tried with Ragman, which came out, I think, this year, because it was kind of like Moon Knight. I thought, okay, well, this will be pretty cool. And I've tried a few times with Batman, which has been good. It's been great, but it hasn't really kind of stuck with me. So I've been speaking with Connor, and he has recommended to me a bit of Superman, and Connor, as obviously you've been recommending me particular series of Superman, and I think this is pretty good. Maybe it is a nice change from Moon Knight, the street level stuff. Where I'm going with this, I guess, is that, Connor, you have other interests other than Iron Fist, of course. Superman being a big one of them?
Yes, definitely. Biggest.
The biggest one, yes. So if you had your three choices, right? So would it be Superman, Iron Fist, Silver Surfer, Constantine? Is that how you'd rank them? Or are there others in there?
Like my top 3 comic book characters?
Yeah. Oh, let's say top 5. What would your top 5
Top
be?
5 I can do. Barely. All right. Well, so no offense to Iron Fist, but Superman is number 1.
Mm-hmm. Which is fair
because
enough. Yeah.
He can work in any genre, any style of writing. So I won't go into it. But Superman's 1. Iron Fist would probably be. Like, the rest are pretty interchangeable.
Yeah. But you were about to say Iron Fist then, weren't you? So
yeah, I was about to say Daredevil, but then the Charles Soule run reared its ugly head at me. So
but I was like the rich history of Daredevil, though, is more than just Soule,
I
know where you're coming from.
Ruined it.
Yeah, because I do love.
He's gotten rid of it. That's why I'm so pissed off. But like Iron Fist, Daredevil, Johnny Blaze. Even though I've all the Ghost Rider I've read is like the full Johnny Blaze original run,
Johnny
which
Blaze,
is like
Johnny
90
Blaze
issues,
makes it
by
in
the
there.
way.
Okay, so he's in there. Yeah.
Hellboy, definitely Hellboy.
So how many? That's 5, isn't it? Have we got 5? Wow. Okay. So Silver Surfer, Constantine have been pushed on the outer.
Well, I mean, I can't rank Constantine as a favorite because I haven't read any of his stuff.
Okay.
But everyone keeps telling me he's like the perfect thing I should read. So, but and Punisher used to be always in the top 5. But,
I would have thought maybe you were a Punisher fan. Yeah.
Yeah, big Punisher fan. Used to be a huge Punisher fan. Still a big Punisher fan, but he's just been edged out, unfortunately, by these other guys.
Yeah, right. That's
and Judge Dredd too.
Yeah, Judge Dredd. Is that has that come about recently, or is that from the movie, or have you been following him for a while? That's interesting. An interesting one.
It was a combination of the Carl Urban movie and Carl himself. So didn't even.
Well, maybe Carl is Carl Urban. We don't know. So
there is a picture of him wearing the Carl Urban Dredd helmet. He's got a pretty good scale going on. So
yeah,
but. Yeah, so I've been reading Judge Dredd, and I've always, I think, I read a story about like a mutant or something, and it was Steve Dillon doing the artwork, and I don't know, I just love the style of Judge Dredd, and yeah, that's also in my bag.
Nice.
I guess most of my guys are street level, really, but
yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? I mean, from the sounds of it, it sounds similar, like you sound very similar to myself, like very street level, but every now and again pops your Superman or your Silver Surfer, you know what I mean? Like, you know, it's the other end of the spectrum, which is really interesting. And like we mentioned, like I mentioned earlier, when I was younger, what got me going was you know, creating characters that were super powered, you know. So I don't know, maybe we're both kind of like that, whether it's either a nice subtle street level grittiness or you're kind of overpowered, because I mean, like if I look at mine, I don't know what top 5 would be, you know, your Moon Knight would, I wouldn't put this in an order. I don't know, I can't disseminate, but you got
watch out, loonies, get ready to turn on him.
You have your Moon Knight, you have your Daredevil. I do like Namor, the Submariner.
Yeah.
I think because he's such an asshole, and
he's
why not?
Classic.
You know, why not be an asshole? It's like it's not your typical superhero. So awesome. I think that's great. And the more of an asshole he is, the better. I think is fantastic. Then Madrox, the Multiple Man, would be good. Yep. Love his stuff. And well, I was going to say, well, not really that big superpower, but Hercules is a really. Rebecca and I really did bond over Hercules.
Okay.
The latest series, and I love similar to you with the Chinese mythology. I do love the Greek mythology, so I don't know why. I don't know why I didn't like Wonder Woman any earlier, but you know, I do love the Norse mythology with Thor and stuff. But my bag's always been the Greek mythology, and Hercules is really cool. You know, there's a whole discussion there as to how he's been portrayed. You know, as you're basically just your drunk kid. But recently he had a good run with Dan Abnett. So
okay.
Yeah, so Hercules is pretty cool. So actually, and what I forgot to mention, and I think I'm surprised none of us mentioned it, ShangChi. I do love ShangChi. Are you a big fan? Have you collected Masters of Kung Fu or anything like that?
Not really. No? I like Bruce Lee, if that counts, because you know.
Well, see, that's what I thought. Maybe there's a connection there. Like, you know, if as you mentioned, you know, with your martial arts training and Iron Fist, was ShangChi ever on the radar? But and he's popped up in Iron Fist, hasn't he? So
he has. I just never gravitated towards ShangChi. Don't.
No, who would win? Who would win? I mean, I'll probably just
Iron Fist.
Yeah, okay, there you go. Because
you know, honestly though, in terms of their like martial skills, I think they're pretty much on the same level.
Yeah. Okay.
But like, if Iron Fist has like his powers, he just like he should really be able to just wipe the floor with him.
Yeah. So with the Iron Fist and the Chi, that's the little advantage he has, I guess. Yeah, you're right. So if he had none of that, then they'd probably be equal, right?
Yeah. And like Yeah, I mean, like Iron Fist has grown a lot as a martial artist. Like,
Yeah.
He used to be equal with Daredevil.
What's about to say
Now he
Daredevil?
can-
Isn't Daredevil pretty good as well?
Yeah, but now Iron Fist can mimic Daredevil's fighting style
Ooh.
and still keep up with him.
Right. Awesome.
Like, without using his powers, so...
Okay, well then, yeah, that's pretty impressive then. Jeez.
Yeah. Not to say Daredevil's not impressive. I mean, hell,
No.
Daredevil is, he's up there with Iron Fist for me.
Yeah, yeah. Because I always thought Iron Fist, Daredevil, and I thought ShangChi. I think you're looking at your fighters there. I did, because I did put Wolverine in there as well. Different style. I guess he's not a martial artist, but he's meant to be quite proficient in all sort of...
See, I stopped... One of the reasons I stopped kind of liking Wolverine is because they made him just good at everything. Like, he stopped being like a berserker Wolverine. He, like, became this, this samurai. And the one of my favorite classic Bendis moments was when Iron Fist and Wolverine had a sparring match and Wolverine just kicked the crap out of him.
Oh.
And I'm just like, wow, Bendis. And like he just jerked off Wolverine that whole run. Like, man.
He loved Wolverine, yeah?
And he just kept shafting Iron Fist in really hilarious ways throughout that whole New Avengers run. So
I wonder if he had something against Iron Fist. I mean, he seems to be pretty anti-Iron Fist.
Apparently his Defenders run with Iron Fist was good. But
the
I
recent
didn't
one?
read it.
The recent one?
Yeah.
It was okay. It wasn't like... I mean, it's typical Bendis. It's so... Like, nothing happened, really.
Everyone talks like a teenager and ends with a question mark.
Everything just... Yeah, there was some, like... there were a whole string of little one-sceners between people with, quippy dialogue and...
Yeah. He used to be good.
Oh, his Daredevil was fantastic. That's
I adore his Daredevil. It's fantastic.
Absolutely. That was... And I haven't read Alias, actually, but I hear that's really good as well, like the original.
It's pretty good, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I've read all of his Jessica Jones stuff before, like the really recent stuff anyway.
I mean, I collected the recent stuff, and it was okay. It was a bit more of Bendis, you know what I mean? So...
I think Alias was good because it was a very case of the week type of thing.
Okay.
It was cool. Very... Yeah. She'd go to, like, a small town and there's, like, a missing person. She has to track them down. Which is what I was really hoping the show would be like, but...
Right.
Didn't really get that, so...
Yeah. That's a shame. Well, I mean, having said all that now, I wanted to then just point the listeners towards what I did... fair loony listeners, is that I asked Connor as well. I know it's a weighted question as well. I asked him, Connor, if you come on the show, it'd be really cool to have a chat. We can shoot the breeze about stuff. But since we have nothing on Moon Knight per se, why don't we talk about what has been the issue for you, like out of collecting comics and reading comics? What has been the issue that has been most impactful towards you? And Connor, you came up with a bit of a hurdle here. I mean, it is a big question. So, but why not? Make you squirm. Why not?
I was taking a jackhammer to that hurdle, trying to figure it out.
So you've whittled it down to 4 books, right? So, which is pretty cool. And I thought, okay, well, instead of torturing Connor any further, why not? Let's just highlight these 4 books. And what I want to do is actually, let's kind of go through, we'll whittle it down even further to 2 books. And we'll go in depth with 2. But before we go into that, let's look at the 4 books that you have mentioned, Connor. So I'm just going to... So these are issues that either, I don't know, mean a lot for a particular reason or have stayed... like within your memory for any particular reason?
I guess because I've had those moments for me where comics have actually pointed out, epiphanies about myself and stuff, but they've usually happened in like 6 to 12 issue stories. So a single issue, like a single standalone issue, was a bit of a challenge. So these ended up, I think, which the way I was like, I guess. when I was thinking about this question and about what issues I just really love, like these are 4 that just came to my head. So that I'm like, yeah, that's how I chose them, because I'm like, well,
that's it.
Came to my head first, right?
Yeah,
so,
that's the best filter.
Yeah,
that's great. Well, actually, before that, and don't want to throw a spanner in the works here, Connor, but just shooting off arcs wise, like you mentioned. So, what arcs then? If we were to look at the arcs,
right.
like what arcs were really good for you? Like,
okay, so, probably the biggest one was All-Star Superman.
Okay, right.
A lot of people say that book has either saved their life or changed their life, and that's a case where I believe that it's just not an exaggeration whatsoever. That book is just so many things on so many levels, and I read that book and it just blew me away, and every time I read it I pick up something new. I mean, for God, like this is for a bit of background, All-Star Superman is written by Grant Morrison, who I consider to be the best Superman writer. And there is like a 10-page interview with him about this book, which is fascinating. And awesome. I won't even try and explain the book too much or its themes, because I just won't do it any justice.
Circa, what year are we looking at around roughly?
This was actually what Immortal Iron Fist lost to for the Eisner Award.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. 2005, I believe. 2005 or 2006.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, so...
Just trying to gauge the writing style and the art style, just with the era. So, yeah,
it's modern.
Yeah, cool.
Quite recent. Yeah, so that was great. I mean, the premise is essentially Superman got a bit too much sunburn and now he's dying. So
what?
He
really?
So he has to. There's sort of goes through. It just really goes into his character, like his past, and think it's a very big Silver Age tribute. It's very wacky. It has Bizarro and stuff, and like Bizarro is like a metaphor for his depression about his dad, and it's just a really good book. I won't go on about it anymore. I will say you should read it though. Everyone should read it. But I'm
putting some notes here as well. Actually, I want to add these to the show notes. So that's good. That's cool. Yeah, All-Star Superman. Yeah. We won't dwell on it, but it sounds pretty cool. And I'll definitely have some info on our show notes for you loonies to check out if you're keen on. Any other arcs, massive arcs that you...
So I guess there's Daredevil. Daredevil Born Again is probably a pretty common one.
Yeah.
I guess it's probably the least impactful one, but why was
it good for you? Like what made it special for you?
I mean, I guess it's what made it special for everyone. It's someone who has just been beaten down to their lowest possible point in life. And they just get back up, and keep going. And it's not in the way you expect either. It's not just a classic revenge story. It's actually quite good, and it's quite a deep book as well. And I mean, like Daredevil's always been struggling with his depression and stuff. And I think Born Again really encapsulates it's his best complete mental breakdown. That's for sure.
It's a ripper read for sure.
Yeah, it's a classic, and I guess the other Daredevil, the other one's Guardian Devil, actually, by Kevin Smith.
Oh yeah, you like that one?
Yeah, I loved it. I know that one's controversial. But there was parts of the end, and he had like talks with Spider-Man and Black Widow, and they just pointed out some personality flaws that I wasn't really aware I had.
Okay.
It's unfortunate to say I do have a fair bit in common with Daredevil. So it helped me improve my life for the better as well.
That's fantastic.
Of course, that history's been erased now. Thank you, Charles Soule. But,
Charles Soule, yeah. Okay, and, that's good. Yeah, and any other ones or?
Probably just a lot of like the Joe Kelly Deadpool stuff.
Yeah.
Also went into actually pretty similar stuff that Daredevil did with his negative personality traits kind of ruining his life in a very realistic, uncomfortable way. But I guess Daredevil kind of ended on high notes.
Yeah.
Deadpool just kept going down the spiral, but I can't not say that Deadpool wasn't like an impactful read for me. Same. And as I mentioned before, the Stan Lee Dicto Spider-Man stuff. Yeah, sorry, that was a long answer, but I tried to make it short.
No, that's good. So I'm just writing that down. Spider-Man. That's really cool. And they're good recommendations for any loonies out there listening and wanting a little break from Mooney or wanting to read some really good things. Like, I'm sure a lot of Moonies are fans of Daredevil as well. There seems to be quite a kinship with the two. So yeah, I mean, and you can't go past Deadpool, Joe Kelly. Pretty cool. And for something...
Excellent stuff.
Yeah, and a bit more of a classic flavour, Stan Lee, Steve Ditko as well. But what's enticed me, Connor, as well, and still continuing on the Superman bandwagon, I'm going to have to check out All-Star Superman. So that's pretty cool. And it won an Eisner. So I think Jeff Lemire won the Eisner this year, didn't he? I think that was announced a couple of days ago.
Don't know, actually.
Okay.
I haven't been keeping track this year.
Oh, I think I saw something on Twitter. Unless I've misread something, I'm going to put my neck out and say that I think he won it. So, well done, Jeff Lemire. If I'm wrong, then I'll edit this out.
I feel like I should point out with All-Star Superman, it's a very specific style of Superman. It's the very...
Oh, the disclaimer's coming.
Well, it's the very campy...
Okay.
Sort of Superman. It's not the story isn't campy itself. The setting is kind of campy. Or like, if you're wanting the realistic Superman or something, it's just it's a difficult book to recommend because if they're already a Superman, it's fine. But for a newcomer, sometimes it gets them into Superman, and sometimes they're like, I don't see what the fuss is about. So just that disclaimer there.
Okay, no worries. But I take on board. What you said earlier on about Superman, about how it can fit every genre, and certainly the ones that you've recommended me that I've read so far tend to span different genres, and I've had no problem with not campy Superman because I haven't come across him yet, but say we'll get to it, but a very like a serious and more reality-based Superman. The other one I read was more of the was in the 80s, right? Early 80s. So there was a level of
late 80s,
a level of of I guess comic books of the time then. So it's all fine. So with those arcs mentioned, so we'll whittle it down to 4 books now, and what Connor has put up as 4. Let's start with. I'm just looking through our chat. Actually, let's start with.
This is bad because I'm the Iron Fist podcast guy, and none of the arcs or books I chose are Iron Fist. So.
No, but that's fine. I mean, as you mentioned as well, with the amount of comics out there, and the amount of they're available for Iron Fist, what are the chances, really? I mean, and you are, you're not a one-eyed tiger as well. You're a comic collector, comic reader in general. So it's absolutely acceptable, and, I think it's fine. Let's start off with the one that wasn't the most recent one that I had here on the list. The Man Who Has Everything. So that was a Superman annual, right? So that was one of your main books, and that was the one that you recommended, one of the first ones you recommended to me. A pretty good book. That was the late 80s book that you mentioned. What was the main reason for this being? And you've mentioned you've got a CGC.
9.6.
9.6 of this actual issue. Take us through this issue, Connor. What was it about?
Well, off the top of my head, well, actually, it's a.
Well, just roughly,
Oh yeah. So basically, it's Superman's birthday. And Batman and Wonder Woman and Robin, who was Jason Todd at the time.
That's the only thing I kept on thinking about. Saying, "Oh shit, this guy's gonna
he's gonna go crazy at some point."
Yeah, good. Yeah.
And they're like, "Oh, it's Superman's birthday. What the hell do we get him?" And I remember actually, I thought it was pretty funny because Batman gets him a flower, But
yeah, that's right. A Krypton flower or something.
Yeah, but when they adapted it in a cartoon, they had Batman give him a check and Wonder Woman give Superman the flower.
Ah, right.
It's funny. Yes. It's like we all know Batman and Superman are gay for each other. So why else do they squabble so much?
Like a married couple.
So they go up to his Fortress of Solitude and they go on, and he's got this weird fugly plant on his chest.
Yeah,
and it's kind of the classic. It's a classic thing where he's been put into his ideal sort of reality.
Yes.
So,
it feeds off his pleasure centers or something like that.
Yeah, it pretty much gives him what he wants, and it shows him what he wants. And what he wants, he has a family on Krypton. But an interesting twist, this is a Krypton that didn't blow up. So his dad, who Jor-El predicted, Krypton's going to blow up. Well, it didn't blow up, and he's been sort of ostracized by Krypton, and he's kind of gone crazy and sort of started this weird cult. And it's not an ideal. It's not an ideal, wish thing. Which you're wondering why, but it turns out that is Superman's subconscious trying to tell him, that hey, you got to wake up because. It's bad stuff going on. So, and it turns out this giant grapefruit dude, who was not Thanos, a guy called Mongol who tangled with Superman a few times, very powerful guy.
Okay, so he's a regular, right? Is he like he's?
Yeah,
yeah. Okay.
He was created by Len Wein.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, and so he's the guy who gave Superman the plant and put it on his chest, and so Wonder Woman tries to hold him off, and Batman kind of comically tries to get the plant off Superman. To no success. Eventually, Superman breaks out of it because he realizes that the vision he is in is not real, but in order to break out of it, he pretty much just has to let his son go and let go of this ideal future.
That was a very heavy scene there.
Yes, his son literally turning to sand.
Yeah, well, just kept on asking him questions like, what's going on, and it's like it's heartbreaking, that.
And he says the line like, I don't think you're real. He's saying that to his 10-year-old son.
Yeah.
And suffice to say, Superman wakes up and he is extremely angry. He goes completely berserk, probably for the first time. Like, he is like actually ready to just full on kill this dude. So he takes off and he has this massive fight with Mongol throughout the fortress.
Yep.
And then Batman gets the plant on his chest. Now we can all guess what Batman's wish is.
Yes. That was predictable, I must say. Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, it worked, and Batman's parents never got shot, and he, ended up living pretty comfortably. I don't think anything went wrong in his vision, did it?
No, it didn't. I don't think so. No, they it got a bit ambiguous there. So they tore off that plant.
Yeah, but Superman ends up gaining the upper hand. But then he sees a statue of his parents and he decides not to kill the grapefruit. Yeah. But then the grapefruit's like, "Hey, screw you, buddy!" And he overpowers Superman. But Jason Todd comes to the rescue.
Yes,
and drops the plant on Mongol himself.
Yeah.
And we get those great pages of like what Mongol wants, and he's just conquered everything. There's heads on spikes.
Absolutely dark, isn't it? It's absolutely just. It was fun. It was funny because it's like this is his fantasy, but what his fantasy is just purely just dark. It was
like what is wrong with this dude?
Yeah, it was pretty cool actually. And for me that took it kind of turned the tone a little there, and I was going, "Oh, okay, shit! I'm glad that this guy didn't win because
and there's a rumor that because this is written by Alan Moore and illustrated by Dave Gibbons, and they're the guys who did Watchmen. And there's a rumor that you can see their heads on pikes, but I've never been able to spot it.
Oh, really?
And when I met Dave Gibbons, I didn't ask him. Yeah.
A totally common question, is your head on a spike? That would have been
cool. Definitely. But that's pretty much the end, though. Superman gets his gifts.
Yeah.
And he's a bit melancholy, and then you see, Mongol's ideal
I do.
reality, and the issue just ends there.
It was really good ending actually, and I really did enjoy this. And what I found, obviously quite powerful, was it digging up all this stuff from Superman's, subconscious, and that was the main crux of it. And it was just, and so you feel for him, you feel how angry he is when he kind of realizes that he's been kind of played, in finger quotes in that sense. But yeah, what made this? So what made this important to you? This issue?
Well, I guess. I never thought Superman was a boring character or anything. But I guess this is probably one of the first issues I read where it really got into his head.
Yeah.
And kind of what he wants. And there was a lot of iconic, powerful moments in that comic. And, it was just, I was just very, I remember the first time I read it, I was completely taken aback by how angry he gets.
Yes.
And
okay.
Just absolutely wails on this guy. And just seeing, like, going into Superman's personality, but going into his personality is like, it's not why he's helping people. It's, what he feels he doesn't have in his life.
Yeah.
And I guess it's kind of, I don't know if I'd call it a flaw, but yeah, he just seemed like a very lonely, sort of person. And yeah, I just thought it was I don't know if it impacted me, but it was just such a good comic.
Right, right. I mean, like the way that you sold it to me was, I'm saying this in a good way as well. Like, I think you said to me, if you want an issue where Superman loses his shit, and then, like, if you want to see him go troppo, then this is the one. But it is so much more than just that, really. And as you say, it's a lot about looking into Superman's, his unconscious desires and his dreams, and in a way it's his vulnerability. Like, you see where he's kind of exposed of what he really wanted.
Yeah.
And with that, it was so impactful. Yeah, I thought.
And that's always been his weakness, is like his ties, for Lois Lane, for instance. Like, his weakness is always like the people he cares for. So I mean, you look at any like top 10 Superman stories list, and that's always going to be like in the top 3. So yeah. But they are actually, well, since you wrote it, I'll probably link you after the show if you want. They did do you remember the Justice League cartoon?
Yeah, I never watched it. I know of it. Yeah.
Well, they did an episode.
I'd like to see it. Is it? I mean, apart from Batman, Wonder Woman swapping gifts, is it pretty accurate or? Yeah,
nowhere near as good.
Yeah.
I don't think the Superman voice actor quite has the gravitas to pull it off, but and it's got some. It's a fun watch. There's no Jason Todd.
Okay. Well, who puts the thing at the end then? Like, who puts?
Pretty sure it's Wonder Woman.
Okay.
Yeah. I know it's Alan Moore's gone on the record saying it's the only adaptation he likes of his work.
Oh, okay. Well, that's something. I mean, like, he's very picky. He's a very particular man, isn't he? So
yeah, it's definitely the kiddified version.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah.
You don't see heads on pikes or anything. But
yeah. With animation, I always take that with a grain of salt. Like, because I'm not even half keen to see animated stuff, because I know it is tailored towards the younger audience. But I'll be definitely keen for this one. That would be good. Be cool.
Yeah, it's just on YouTube, I think.
Oh yeah, check it out. The other one, which got an honourable mention, I guess, was Action Comics 2011 issue 0. So this was like actually the first half of the issue, right? Because there was 2 stories in this. So this is quite different, a quite different Superman. And actually, I read this last out of all your recommendations.
Okay. Would have been strange.
It's very strange. And I noticed Grant Morrison and Ben Oliver on story and art. But yeah, so this, and I do know a little bit about how they wanted to rework all the DC characters. So this is a very edgier, realistic Superman. Yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah. And a younger Superman, right? Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, well, it's not so much they were making him edgy and realistic like that. That is essentially the Golden Age Superman you're seeing. Like, the Superman from the 30s and 40s, that was his power level.
Right.
Like, he got... maybe the Golden Age Superman wouldn't have gotten just, like, KO'd by a mortar for, like, an hour, but...
Yeah, because he did get a bit... Yeah, well, that's it. Towards the end, that was... his power set's obviously not as Yeah, big. Yeah.
But yeah, that was a bit. Yeah, so the Golden Age Superman was very. He was a lot more hands on. He punched people, he'd kill people sometimes, and he just jumped around. He didn't have flying or any of that stuff. So yeah, I guess the Golden Age Superman was definitely edgier than current Family Man Superman.
And is this why you kind of liked Action Zero, because of its connection with the Golden Age in a way?
Yeah,
like a modern version of it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's honestly, I think the Superman that appears in Action Comics Zero is probably my favorite iteration of the character.
Okay.
He's in jeans. Might be.
He's in jeans. Right?
Yeah, I love it. I was talking to Rebecca the other day how much we love the jeans and t-shirt costume.
Yeah, right.
And I love the fact that he's ordering like 200 t-shirts.
Yeah, that's so strange.
At the start, because they always get torn up. But I just thought it was a really nice little story. Mm-hmm. And it was kind of like one of those day in the life stories. You know what I mean? Like, this is probably something he does every day.
Yeah.
But it just came to my head. Like, it was really nice.
Yeah, there were very much a lot of domestic just activities, like him and Jimmy. Is it Jimmy? Jimmy Olsen?
Yeah, Jimmy Olsen.
Just playing video games and just talking, which is, it's not just waffle as well. It's actually quite engaging conversation as well.
Yeah.
So that really does add a level of reality to it, barring the fact that he can obviously shoot, he's bulletproof and he can shoot X-rays. But yeah, no, it was an interesting one, I thought. It was good. And anyway, out of the 4, so those 2 were honourable mentions. Let's go to... Oh, we've got 2 more to go to. And the first... Yeah, I think so.
Oh, we do. Right.
Yeah. Oh, for sure.
Oh, now we're on the real ones, right?
Now we're on the real ones. So, okay. So, they obviously made an impact to you, Connor, those 2. But these other 2... actually all 4. I basically picked these 2 for you from your pool. So. Yeah, you told me to pick these 2. So, and these were ones which I read as well, just before we went on air, and I thought were pretty impressive. So before we get into that, Connor, I think maybe we might as well get into the moment, into the right place. The first one is Daredevil, issue 304. Now, instead of talking about it here in this dingy, musty Grant Mansion, I think we probably should head over to New York to talk about this. Get a sense of what Daredevil's feeling, right? So
cool.
Yeah, sorry.
Are we traveling to like 90s New York or modern day New York?
No.
Because I don't want to get mugged.
No, don't worry. We'll be high up on the rooftops as Daredevil is. We can perch ourselves on a gargoyle. Or 2 or whatever's up there. I don't know what's up there now. But just follow me this way. So as you can see, Connor, as we're kind of walking out of Grant Mansion, there we have just a few hundred rooms here for Stephen Grant. There's the trophy room there with all his stuff there, with his Khonshu statue. Over there we've got the kitchen. Hello, Samuels. How are you?
Rise and shine.
Yes, thank you. And over there with the squeaky velvet, we have Mark's bedroom and his jacuzzi. And hi, Marlene. There's Marlene.
Hello.
Excellent. Okay, let's head into the mooncopter. All right, are you all buckled in there, Connor?
Do you know how to fly?
I don't know. I've seen a lot of movies. I've seen a lot of Die Hard. How hard can it be, right? So let's give this a go.
If he can do it, then we're good.
Yeah, exactly. I know. Where's Frenchie where you need him? Okay, let's go. All right, Connor, we are here on top of, let's just say, the Empire State Building.
Yep.
Pretty high. It's pretty high. It's quite windy here, but what I wanted to do is get a sense of Daredevil, and I wanted to drink in his environment and to talk about this issue that you have highlighted as one of your most important issues. This is Daredevil 304. So, shall we go through it? Have you got your copy there? Mind the pigeons.
Indeed, I do.
Yep, excellent. Okay, so before we start, anyway, just overall, like what really made this for you?
Well, speaking of the day in the life thing we were talking about before, this issue is probably this is I don't know.
I'm seeing a theme as well. You know,
as I've said, Daredevil, like I don't know. I can relate a lot to Daredevil, and I love that this is like it's just the daily struggle for him.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I guess I don't want to spoil the issue too much or anything.
No.
But this issue encapsulates so many things I love about the character and so many of the qualities, like, I just really admire in the character as well. And, like, I hope I can be.
Yeah.
You know, if I ever had, like, you know, these positive qualities that he shows here, like, you know.
Yeah. I see it like, you know, if you distill it into words, I see it as a very hearty depiction of him, and a very like true, like just honest, really honest. Like, there are no real bells and whistles to this. There are no supervillains and no, you know, aliens or whatever. It's just him in New York, where we are now, just surveilling his territory. So, I mean, look, what we have here from maybe, Connor, do you want to read out just the credits here?
Yeah, sure. So, oh man, I can never pronounce this guy's name. I know who he is.
Writer?
Yeah.
I don't know. I say Chichester, but I don't know.
DJ Chichester is the writer. Penciler is Ron Garney. Inker is Bud LaRosa. Letterer is Bill Oakley. Colorer is Max Shield. Editor is Ralph Macchio. Editor-in-Chief is Tom DeFalco.
Yep, excellent.
Sorry if I messed any of that up.
Oh, no, not at all. And this was released May of 1992. So, yeah, I mean, as we kick off, what we immediately get from DG Chichester is a time, 10:07 a.m., which is important because it runs throughout the whole issue. And we see Daredevil, much like ourselves, perched up on a ledge somewhere.
Yes.
So this is basically I guess a day in the life of Daredevil. Actually, before I say that, Connor, it's weird because anyway, we'll get to that. So anyway, it's a day in the life of Daredevil. So at 10 in the morning, he's just surveilling. At around lunchtime, 12:34, he spots just innocuous people. There are a couple here with their baby. What I do love here, I've got to mention ponytails in the 90s are big.
Yeah.
You know? Actually, I thought this guy at first was a criminal, but he's just a normal dude, right? So he's got a pram, and the baby's pram gets caught in between the gap of the train and the platform, and the door's shut, and geez, this is a big thing. The train starts moving, and the stroller moves with it. A very heartrending kind of scene, you know. And they try desperately to get the attention of the driver, which we'll see later. The guy's screaming, and rather, I know, grimly, we see the baby flopped out of the thing.
Off.
Yeah. So it's pretty dark, but what we see, of course, is in the shadows, Daredevil's there, and beautifully done with his, perfect balance and such. He manages to catch the baby, and an important thing here, Connor, was I think he takes a hit himself. He rolls on the ground, despite the fact that he's got hypersenses. And he, typical Daredevil, a very noble act. He takes one for the better of the child. So that's the first incident. And we see later on the happy parents, and later on as well, which actually I had to I was just flicking through this, I had to double take, and it's the train driver that he kind of gets. And I don't know what he does to him. I mean, the guy, it was negligence, I don't know. But he just says, clean your ears, and he gets a rather harsh reproachment from Daredevil.
I mean, he didn't beat him up, at least.
No, he didn't. Yeah, which I think is fair. I mean, the guy was just negligent, really.
Maybe the equivalent today would be like, I don't know, he'd be on his cell phone or something, but...
Oh, we'll get to that. We'll get to that, don't worry. We'll get to that.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. But that's exactly what it is. And I don't know about you, but I cannot stand people on their phones in the car. You know, that's just terrible. So how about the next one, Connor? We got later on in the day.
Yes. So 4:56 p.m. So this is this is a pretty funny one.
Yeah.
There's this lady. She's trying to lug all of these bags. She's trying to get to Grand Central, and she hails a cab. Mm-hmm. And she goes to hop in, and this dapper-looking gentleman with a ponytail, I might add, pretty much just cuts in and jumps in the cab, and it's raining.
What a douche.
And she's just like, "This is mine, it's raining." And he goes, "No kidding. You know what a pain it is getting a cab on a day like this?"
Yeah.
And then Daredevil yanks him out by the ponytail. And, the lady just gets in the cab. And he's left in the puddle shaking his fist, and Daredevil's just catching a ride on the cab as well.
There's nothing better than shaking your fist in anger. I do. Do you do that? Do you do that, Connor? I do
that. I have yelled to the heavens in anger at a particular brand of car one day. So I guess that's right. Yes.
That's your fist shake. And again, we see here, I guess, crime of any sort. Well, not really a crime, but any, how would you describe it? Any douchiness or any wrongdoing, Daredevil will take. It doesn't matter how big or small. And this is a pretty small one. Come on,
I mean, we're making him sound like some weird dictator, but
no.
It's not played like that. It's played like, I mean, this guy is a huge jerk, and
yes.
Yeah, he got thrown out of the cab because he stole this chick's cab, and it's just very uncourteous.
Exactly. That's all it is, really. But I like it how Daredevil pays attention to that as well. So, the next one, so now, I mean, there's a little bit of downtime for Daredevil. So 4:56 p.m.
Yeah.
We go into midnight, just past midnight, the witching hour, 12:01, and we get more, just a little bit more crime here, and we get a gentleman who I think is he's been on the sauce for a lot of bad luck happening to him in his life.
Mentions he's an ex-broker for Wall Street, so...
and he's just got laid off as well, so not the best time for him. And he's found himself in an alley, and we have your typical 90s criminal there. Pretty vicious. He's got a baseball bat wanting to mug this guy. There's a lot of people...
No ponytail, though.
No ponytail. No, you're right. He's all right. He's got a pouch, I think, so that's a nice thing. But, down there in the alleys, we're safe up here, but he swings a bat at the guy, but Daredevil manages to get it at the nick of time. And, of course, a little quip at the end, next batter, and he pulls the guy's hair, and we think he diffuses the situation. So, again, another job for Daredevil. Another quick one, but we see that he's got eyes everywhere, so that's pretty cool.
And then the cop remarks, word is you've been busy, Hornhead, that time.
That's
and
right.
Daredevil just has the serious face, clocks ticking, Sergeant.
Yeah, brilliant. Which is pretty cool. So he's doing his job very well. And then we have later on in the night there, Connor, as well.
Yes, 2:39 a.m. We cut to an abrupt scene of Daredevil tackling this dude with a chainsaw through a glass window of a bar. And there is I'm sure Daredevil readers know, there is a running joke of Daredevil ruining glass panes for bars. So, but apparently this guy was determined to prove his manhood by carving his initials in the bar and carving up anyone else who got in his way. Yeah, so apparently he probably went to his truck and picked up a chainsaw. But luckily, the cloud of carbon monoxide from the chainsaw alerted Daredevil to his presence. Yes. And, took him out.
Look, with these street level and just normal people, it's really...
I don't know if this guy's normal.
Well, I mean, as in, he's not Thanos.
Yeah, I know what you mean. He's not a super villain.
He's not super... It's very easy work for Daredevil, but he's got a lot of stuff to do, hasn't he? I mean, Connor, 2:39 in the morning, are you... do you envisage yourself tackling a chainsawed person? I think it's...
Do you want the answer to that?
Well, I'm afraid for it. Yeah, so no sleep for the no rest for the wicked here, and Daredevil must.
Yeah, no. He doesn't seem to be sleeping at all.
Yeah, I feel for him actually, because like with his time, every time, and especially from the Netflix series, and you see him panting and struggling. When I was reading this, looking at the time, I'm going, geez, it's 2:39 in the morning. He's been up, fighting crime since 10 o'clock. He must be buggered. He must be buggered, right? I mean, it's just Sorry, go on. I would just say it's just a different perspective after having seen him on screen, on the screen. Yeah.
But I thought one of the worst things was in the Ben Affleck Daredevil movie. This is only in the director's cut though, which is much better.
I haven't seen
the other
it.
cut.
Okay.
Definitely worth watching. Much better cut.
Everyone says it though. Yeah. Okay.
Well, because the romance becomes a subplot, and
cool.
But there's a bit, and he goes through the ritual of like getting undressed, and you see all the scars and stuff, and he finally gets into a sensory deprivation tank, and then he hears someone getting stabbed.
Oh.
But it's like at that point, if you watch it, because it's like it's too late for him to do anything.
Yeah.
So it's just kind of like the worst. It's like a bird pooing on your head. Like it's just the worst possible. It must have been like the worst possible feeling. Like he just could not do anything.
Well, just helpless, right?
Yeah, exactly. Like he could hear like every excruciating detail of the murder as it happened.
That'd be torture. Yeah.
Yeah. No.
Oh, that's pretty good. That actually gives it a bit more of a darker quality to it. That movie.
Oh yeah, I mean it starts with playground fight, but definitely check out the director's cut.
The playground fight,
yeah. No.
And the bad thing about that was it in the commentary or whatever, they spent so long kind of choreographing that, and I'm quite proud of it. But
No, they add a whole there's a whole subplot of like lawyer stuff that's added, and the movie's generally a lot darker.
Okay.
Instead of sleeping with Elektra, he goes and fights crime. Like, that's an actual change in the director's cut, which is amazing.
Wow. Okay. Well,
definitely check it out.
Yeah, I got to see it. I mean, like, after seeing Charlie Cox in Daredevil, it's hard to go back to Ben Affleck in that movie.
See, I think they're both really good Daredevils. Okay. I'm probably a minority, but despite what Affleck keeps saying about the Daredevil movie, I think he was a good Daredevil.
Yeah, that was a turn off, and I do like the costume in Affleck's Daredevil as well. It was pretty cool.
Impractical though. Who wears leather just on skin? Oh,
true.
And peeling that off, like oof.
After you're sweaty and all that, after hard days, after 34 hours of
Oh, there's scabs on the inside of my suit because they got stuck.
I can kind of imagine that now. Yeah, that's not good at all.
Oh, you picture it.
Right. So, in the comic book form at least, we're now a few hours ahead, 7:28, early in the morning. So around this time I'd be, getting ready to go to work, having showered, looking for breakfast, and we get a homeless man here just with his cart of recyclables, I think, and a car swooshes by and knocks over his trolley. He's very unhappy at that, but while he's complaining, Daredevil's secretly helping it tidy up. And he turns around and everything's all tickety-boo. So, sight unseen, but, good job done. Daredevil again.
Yep. And then we get to a few hours later, 11:22 a.m., and these crazy kids are playing ping pong across the road.
Why not? Why not? Why not?
Yeah. And they're oblivious to whatever's going on, and the driver's on his phone.
The driver's
like,
on
his phone.
Phone. Exactly.
Cellular all the way. I just got it installed this weekend.
New technology.
And then we get to Daredevil's scowly face.
Yes.
Thick auto exhaust swamping over heavy perspiration. Squealing car phone static and youthful giggles cancelling each other out. And then he leaps into action, and the car's about to hit the chick, and at the last second they both realise, like, oops.
Yeah.
So Daredevil knocks her out the way. He flips onto the car, grabs her, and takes her out the way. And the best part here is he hits the ball back.
He does.
Like, he grabs her racket and just hits the ping pong ball back to the other dude.
Yep. and manages to get his it bounces on the first volley. It bounces onto his bat. So that's pretty cool. What I thought as well was funny. The guy on the phone, he actually manages to sign off on the call. Ken, I got to go. Split second. You got a split second to react, and he still manages to say, "Hang on, I'll see you later." So,
well, I mean, you always hate in the movies that they just hang up without saying goodbye,
well,
right?
That's true. Yeah. That is true. So Chichester has really done his homework here, which is really cool.
But and I do like that little detail of he's heard her, but then Daredevil points out, well, it would have hurt a lot more the other way.
Yeah,
so.
Exactly. He's done the best he can. It's it's not all.
He's he's not Superman, wink, wink. But
Superman would have diffused the situation a lot easier.
Unless it was that Superman who got totaled by the mortar, then he probably would have trashed the dude's car. But
oh yeah, probably gone a bit aggro. Or the Superman.
But then,
sorry, yep.
Oh, so I was just saying, Daredevil points out they should just try the court next time.
Yeah, look. Do you think there's a bit of a Darwin Awards thing happening here? Maybe they were better off. Maybe she was better off getting hit.
I feel like I don't have many problems with this comic. But maybe if they were a bit younger, it'd be a bit more believable that they just would be so airheaded.
Yeah, playing ping pong on a road. Come on,
these guys look like they're 20.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. Exactly.
I expect this from 12-year-olds or 8-year-olds. Maybe they're playing street hockey or something.
That would have worked better. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, they're a bit old.
Daredevil makes them all look like chumps anyway. So
exactly.
He might stick around to tell the guy off, but that's off panel if he does.
Yeah. And he's great. He patronises them quite well. Next time, try the court at the Y. He pats her on the head with the bat. It looks like. So I don't know. It's good. It's good. I'm up with that. It's
charming. It's a nice, charming little moment, I think.
Yeah, it is. It is. It's
he's Daredevil's not just he's not Marvel's Batman.
No.
Which I know your pain, by the way, with the whole Marvel's Batman thing.
Oh gosh, yeah.
I'm sure. You'll be pleased to know that I never thought of Moon Knight as Marvel's Batman. Oh,
so. Fantastic. Yeah, it is. It is a bit of a bane, no pun intended. But, it is, he's very different. Let's just face it, the people that know Moon Knight know that he's very different. That's all that matters.
The problem, man, I guess I'm not sure how the Moon Knight thing started because... Actually, no, I was listening to that Ghost Rider podcast and with the epic tale of Plasma that you guys were counting. Yeah. And you mentioned that Moon Knight was acting a lot like Batman in the 90s.
Yes.
Because he didn't have his personalities or anything?
There was an editorial decision, they were told, all the writers, Chuck Dixon has confirmed it, that they were told to forget the identities and just concentrate on... Basically, he's kind of Batman-esque thing. I think they must have been trying to compete against Batman or something. Yeah, so they...
Need to be more extreme.
Yeah. So that was their choice back then. Around this time, the early 90s, this was when this was written. So, yeah, it was interesting. Historically, it's interesting. Yeah. But,
I guess the problem with Daredevil, right, is one of the most well-known Batman writers is Frank Miller.
Yes.
Guess who the most well-known Daredevil writer is? Frank Miller.
Well, the good thing of the silver lining there, though, is that which came first, the seminal writing.
Well, that's the thing. Everyone who accuses Daredevil of, being Marvel's Batman is, they refer to the Miller stuff, and it's well, no, Miller was writing Daredevil before Batman, which is why he seems like Marvel's Batman. It's weird because, Batman Year One and The Dark Knight Returns, Daredevil's just aping those. Well, no, Born Again, the whole Daredevil run came out before all that.
I mean, look, and I don't hate Batman, but it's all because of Daredevil that Batman was really. I mean, Miller was cutting his teeth into Daredevil, trying to figure out a tone, the sort of hero, and he learned a lot from writing Daredevil, and he applied that to Batman. So
people always forget there's still a lot of humour in the Frank Miller Daredevil run as well. The initial run, anyway, not so much Born Again.
Yeah.
Although there is Turk dressed as Santa Claus in Born Again, so I guess there's that.
A little bit.
So That's all pretty interesting.
Yeah.
I just want to briefly point out, if we're doing things that ripped off Daredevil, well, not that Batman that he didn't, but anyway, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Yes, that's.
Come on.
I love that though. That's great. That's like a conscious homage to Daredevil, right?
I've just always been jealous that they got so popular and Daredevil didn't. Not until now, anyway.
True. Well, Daredevil, he's got his time in the sun now, really, hasn't he?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, but I love the fact. I don't mind that, and like, good on the TMNT. That was great. But I love it how everything is intrinsically linked to Daredevil. It's beautiful. So yeah, it's really good.
Even the Big Bang can be traced back to Daredevil. So,
of course, exactly. So we started to get a bit more serious here now. I think this is probably the third act of this.
The crescendo.
The crescendo, I'd put it. Yeah. And we see Daredevil again doing his thing. It's 3:51 in the afternoon. And he's perched up on top of the arch and he's looking down at Washington Square Park. And there's basically a busker there doing his thing. He's doing a sword juggling act and a fire breathing act and such.
I love the little box there that just says "A Symphony of Sensation" with the man without fear conducting. Like he's just looking. Not looking.
No,
you know what I mean.
Yeah, he's but that's a nice, beautiful what do you call it? Blurble text there. It's really good.
Yeah,
very well written, and he's just he's got an apple. You know, even Daredevil gets hungry after doing all that work, and so we have a busker, but we also have other people here in this final act. Connor, we have a bunch of film students. Sorry.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. New York film students, one guy with a toy gun. They're doing an amateur film. We have the busker, as I mentioned. He's juggling, cleavers and swords and such.
Yeah, he's probably not a busker.
Oh, isn't he?
Well, a busker plays instruments, right? I think this guy is just a street performer.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Not to be a nitpicking ninny.
Right. No worries. No, yeah, I mean, because I immediately saw Circular... Well, sorry, for the Sydney siders listening, I immediately saw Circular Quay where... I just roundly call them buskers, but there are a lot of street performers, you're absolutely right, where they do all these other tricks rather than just singing and stuff. So, so he's there.
The Ginsu knife act, apparently, is what this guy is doing.
Ah, right.
Well, he said on the page, so I'm not that smart.
Oh, yeah, he does. I was looking for it. It's right at the top. There it is. And then we get a few other players here, Connor. Can you maybe explain... This has actually took a bit of a dark turn as well. Yeah,
this got really, weird.
Yeah.
So, we have one of the... no, he's not a film student. This is just a photographer.
Another guy. Yeah, just another person. Yeah.
Yeah, and this guy bumps into him, and he's, really silly. He's like, "What you sorry about?" And he's like, I said excuse me. And it's this guy with, a mustache and a
camo gear.
Yeah, and a Daffy Duck shirt.
Yeah, strange.
But he's got the camo trench coat, so he probably has a million AK-47s under his thing or something.
Oh yeah.
And then there's this weird old guy in a hoodie behind him on the left going, "Oh, young man."
Terrible.
Yeah. And and Daredevil's in a monologue, he's saying the tension is so thick he can almost feel it raising the hairs on the back of his arms underneath the supple red of his suit.
Yeah. It's really good. And then what we get going on is we get the film students setting up their stuff. We're established that the gun is in fact fake because it's just a toy gun for the show. We get the street performer doing his stuff. He's using dangerous things. He's using torches now. Juggling torches. Entertaining the crowd with quips as well. And at the same time as well, we see that really creepy dude just start to kind of really get in there into the space of that the young man with the camera and asking him what's he doing. Have you taken a lot of pictures? There's a good angle up here, a terrific shot if you come with me. And the other guy in the camouflage gear, he's a bit of a loose cannon, it seems here.
Yeah, he's like keep it cool, people, and his fist like starts shaking. And there's this odd touch of like that red balloon with the smiley face in the background.
It's very odd.
Maybe it's like his head's about to burst or something. I don't know.
Yeah. But I like the a lot of good direction here with the layouts, and obviously the shaking fist there to show that he's not totally, and he's talking to himself as well.
That too, yeah.
Yeah.
And then they start shooting the student film, and so you got the kid there running with the gun. He leaps over the fence. Daredevil points out, a little low on the hurdle, but not bad.
Yeah, I like that. That was really cool.
As he's eating his apple, and the juggler, the barrel where he's put his fire sticks. Sure there's a better name for those, starts rolling, and the young man is being slowly guided away by the old creepy man. And
terrible.
And he's like, I'd have to lift you up to get you high enough.
I know.
Would you like that? I would.
Oh god. Yeah. Which at this point now, seriously, Connor, I'd be friggin' just running the other way. This guy is just too creepy for my liking.
Yeah. And then we get to Captain Carnage with his mullet.
Oh, he's got a he's got a ponytail as well.
Yeah.
Third.
Yeah. Why don't I say mullet?
It's lovely. I wonder if he's.
But yeah.
Yes.
He sees the kid running.
Yep.
And he's like, "Wrong day, wrong park, punk." And this is literally where the apple drops.
Yeah, this is beautiful because we get a sense from Daredevil that he can see all the cogs moving, but he can see what is going to eventuate. His keen senses. He just sees what is about to happen. He can predict it.
Like, this is the boiling point.
Yeah. Yeah. So and we get the young film student with the fake gun. Just flashing his gun, but at the same time, that drum that had the fire sticks has fallen over and has rolled behind the street performer, and he unfortunately slips, and he throws everything up into the air.
Whoops.
Yes.
He's like, whoa, and then we cut to everything going wrong, and the old dude is like pretty much just like abducting this kid at this point.
Yeah, that's terrible.
God. And the crazy guy is looks like he's pulling out a piece when he sees the kid with the toy gun.
Yep. And
this is where Daredevil leaps off the building, or the archway he was on, and the sword is about to impale the street performer. You really threw that wrong.
Yeah, knife throwing 101. So I'm sure there were safety measures, but he flung it up into the air. And so we get more of the guy, obviously, trying to abduct this poor young fella. The film student's happy, but we also notice here, this is another twist for me, Connor. The shaky guy in the camo gear is actually a New York cop, but he's obviously a bit under duress or stress. But he pulls a gun, he pulls a piece on the film student, thinking that he's some sort of, terrorist or criminal. But Daredevil sees all of this.
And that was a big twist for me as well, because I thought he was just like a, sort of maybe be like a vet or something.
Yeah. Was it essential to have him as a New York cop? I don't think so. I think, as you say, it would probably come across as a vet. Would probably work.
I think it's good. It adds a nice twist, I think.
Yeah.
And it also adds a twist like this is a cop, so I think there's like a boiling point for everyone.
Yeah, right.
Maybe not, but like, it's better that Daredevil is there.
Mm-hmm.
These aren't just a bunch of criminals and miscreants in the park. This is just everyday things going wrong.
Yeah.
And God knows, there has been accidents with cops before.
Yes. Yeah. So Daredevil leaps into the fray. The first thing he does, he manages to stop the knife from falling on the street performer, and just says, "Mind if I borrow this?" And he's already got a plan of what he's going to do. So the guy he's got his gun trained on the film student. Is basically saying, well, he's talking gibberish really. Told you not to. What is he doing?
Yeah, I don't know. He must be going under some sort of PTSD or something because I think he's like, oh well, the film student is like, he's kind of, look, this gun's not real, and he's like holding it out, which is probably a pretty stupid move.
yeah.
And he's like, I told you not to, you know, because you can see the reflection in his glasses. It kind of looks like he's
about to shoot him.
Yeah,
yeah.
And then Daredevil's leaping over things and. He throws the sword, and I thought he was going to throw the sword to disarm the...
Yes, I thought so too.
...cop.
Yeah.
But then he just, like, slashes the pedophile in the arm.
Yeah. And the guy's broken his trance and says, get away from me. So he's no longer under the influence of this pedophile.
Yeah.
Daredevil still hasn't finished. He's still got a lot to do. So we're still stuck with the what do you call it? The face-off between...
the cop and the film student.
And then we get this other cool thing at the end here. So Daredevil leaps in time and he puts his hand in the way of the hammer of the gun. Yeah. And he, you know, again, innocuous to us. You know, it'll probably hurt a bit, but for Daredevil, that would be just agony, right? So.
Well, I think it hits his nerve, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. Yeah, nerve ending. Yeah. I mean, like, and his nerves are very sensitive, as we all know.
Oh, I see.
Yeah. Yep. So for a normal person, it would hurt, but probably not as much. For him, it would hurt a lot, I think.
And the cop has a line about how he's the one going home to dinner tonight. So
yeah.
He's obviously acting out of fear as opposed to just sort of being a jerk.
Yep. Yeah, he's had some sort of trauma.
Like, he's just super paranoid.
Yeah.
Probably shouldn't be carrying a gun and a badge right now. But,
no.
And the film student's like, whoa, you're totally going to shoot me.
Yeah. And the pedophile there is left clutching his, I'm assuming, bloodied arm. We don't see it, but Daredevil points actually, that's the reason why he's a cop, I guess. He points him towards the pedophile, saying that, you know, you do have a job here. You can actually, you know, while you're at it, you can pick up this dude.
Arrest him, and then yourself.
Exactly. Turn yourself in with him. And the crowd cheers, and Daredevil, you know, being a local of New York, has to oblige them all.
He takes a bow.
Yeah, which is pretty cool. I mean, why not? You know, he's had a busy day.
Plus, that's like the polite thing to do, I guess.
Oh yeah,
you know,
instead of just
the caption does say, blood rushes to his face, warm with embarrassment, but you don't say no to New Yorkers.
Exactly. So that was pretty cool as well. And then the final page is a bit of like an epilogue, so to speak. So we reached the 34 hours, 8:07 p.m. So Daredevil has been up and about, and we're brought back to the spot that he began with. We saw him on top of the ledge in front of the clock. And, so Connor, I was actually trying to work out this last bit here. So it's all about 34 hours, right? So his 34 hours has been busy, right? So are they saying 34 hours out of the entire year, it gets busy, or
I think it's like 34 hours out of the entire year. There's no.
Oh, there's no.
Like, there's like no murders, if you know what I mean. Like, I'll read out the epilogue if you don't mind.
Yeah, for sure.
So this is as Daredevil sitting on the, ledge or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Daredevil knows the streets, while the man named Matt Murdock, who lives behind the mask, knows the statistics. A normal day means a murder every 3 hours, 55 minutes. It's the rare 24 hours goes by that spares a human life. And when it does, it's not that a city's protectors have been provided a much-needed breather, it's that some family's been saved from another tragedy. It comes from less than an avenue away, with the suddenness of a serpent strike. A moist-sounding whistle, slash of steel cutting deep into flesh. Anguish, gasp dwindling, vanishing under the all-too-familiar copper reek of blood. 34 hours out of an entire year. The exception to the rule of brother-against-brother violence that frightens 8 million souls into compromising the value of their humanity. Stripped of hope and accepting a norm of killing like clockwork. times are wasting indeed. The end. So I think that was the whole sort of, because they mentioned it as a cop before, times are wasting, like this is, I guess this is the 34 hours
right
of the year where, you know, no one has been murdered, and it's a very rare occurrence. So I guess it ends on like a bit of a downer note.
It does. It does. It gives a sense that the work is never done. Like, you know.
Yeah, pretty much. And like I'm not 100% sure on that myself. Maybe a Mooney can clear it up for us or something. Or a Looney.
Yeah, or both. You know, Moonies and Loonies. Why not?
Or priests.
Or priests. Yeah.
High priests. Yes.
But this was a pretty good issue.
Yeah.
And so, as you were saying, this was quite memorable for you because of this, I guess, honesty that Daredevil shows with him, just his honest work in New York City.
Yeah, it's not. There's no like attempt to deconstruct the character or anything in this issue. There's no. This is all about like what. This is just honestly showing what he does for the city and stuff, and like it just shows his good qualities. Like this is why he's a hero, and this is why he's a good person. Yeah,
for sure, and that's something that we really should focus on because, let's face it, this is in by no way any marketing for New York tourism. It actually shows that it's quite a dangerous place, it seems, and again, I'm glad that we're up here, perched high, but
expensive,
expensive as well. But yeah, this was really cool. And as I mentioned before, there are parallels, I think, with this one and your second. Oh, actually, before we do that, why not? Let's do a bit of a review here.
Yeah, sure.
Sorry, not review, rating. Sorry. What would you give this? You know, knowing it's one of your favourites already, but what would you give this out of pedophiles? How many pedophiles are we going to give this?
I was going to say Billy Club, but your mind just went to pedophiles.
Billy Clubs is a lot better.
As I said, for me, this is a near perfect issue, so I give it 4.5 Billy Clubs out of 5.
And knowing your rating system from last week's Sons of the Dragon that I guested on, that is a pretty high on the Connor rating scale.
Very rare occurrence. Right. That is true.
Ooh, I'm very keen to hear what this other comic that we're going to review will be. I really enjoyed this as well. And apart from the visual 90s, just things that you can't escape, like the ponytails, the fashion of the day, like the two kids playing ping pong. Well, she's in her leotards or whatever. Apart from that, it's a pretty timeless. I think it's a pretty timeless tale because it's very simple, and it actually, the two main characters are basically Daredevil and New York City. And this is what we always, this is what is always reiterated in the Netflix show as well about New York is a character in itself, and we very much get a sense of this. I love the range of crime that shows that Daredevil, nothing is too small or big for him. It was really good. It was a really good portrayal of him. It focused on one aspect of him, like you were talking about. There's so much that goes into Daredevil, like his depression and his relationships and all that with Karen Page and all the supporting characters. But no, this was a nice solid outing. I'd give this a 4 as well.
Nice.
4 flying babies out of 5. That would be pretty.
Wow.
Pretty. I think I've turned it to the page here and I just see this baby in midair. So.
I think the artwork is gorgeous, especially for the 90s.
Oh, it's great. And can you believe this is Ron Garney? Like, this is the same guy doing the art now at Daredevil. Well,
really?
So recently. Yeah, Ron Garney. It's the same guy.
Wow.
So
that's crazy.
Different.
I did not know that.
Yeah. With your favourite Charles Soule run. It's but I'd love this art as well. It's very
There's a lot of subtle touches in the artwork as well. Like there'll be certain panels and certain parts of panels which are in Daredevil's radar vision.
Yeah.
I love this.
Fantastic.
Issue.
So, I mean, so Loonies, again, if you are a fan of Daredevil, or if you aren't and you want to find a door into Daredevil's world, check out Daredevil 304. So, Volume 1?
Yep.
Yep.
You can pick that up pretty cheap.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's not like a super rare issue or anything. It's on a Hallmark, so you can pick it up pretty cheap online or just search those back issues at your local comic book store. It'd probably be on Comixology or something. I'm not sure because I don't have a digital.
Yeah, I haven't checked, but I reckon it probably would be. There's a whole heap of Daredevil there, so if it's on Marvel Unlimited as well, which it may well be if you have the subscription, just check that out as well. If not, check out Comixology. I'm sure it's there.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that was a fantastic review there. But we have one more here, Connor. So time to get time to get away from New York City, and I think for this one, well, let's announce it first. So this other one, which is a very important one from Connor's list, is Superman: Peace on Earth. This was, when was this released, Connor? It was
this. I will look it up, but I believe it is mid 2000s. Okay,
mid 2000s. And we'll get into the credits and stuff, but so mid 2000s, Superman: Peace on Earth. This was this just like one super issue, like big issue?
So they did this for most of the members of the Justice League.
Okay.
So there's Batman: War on Crime. There's Shazam: The Power of Hope, or I love the Photoshop: The Power of Nope. And there's also Wonder Woman: Courage. I'm not sure of the full title. I've read all of them but the Wonder Woman one.
I was about to say, Wonder Woman one would have been pretty cool, possibly.
Yeah, I haven't actually read that one. I know the Shazam Batman ones weren't anywhere near as good, so I didn't bother with the rest. But this is 1998. Okay, cool.
Yeah. I mean, it's very, you wouldn't be able to tell from the art. I mean, the artwork's fantastic.
Timeless, yeah.
Exactly, timeless. And before we get into that kind of, why don't we just hop onto the Mooncopter, get out of here, and let's go up to the Artic, Fortress of Solitude, yeah?
I didn't bring a jumper, but alright.
Yeah, well, it's alright. We'll get one of those, I don't know. We'll
kill a polar bear.
We'll kill a polar bear. Yeah, let's get out of here. Okay, we are here in the cold Arctic of the Fortress of Solitude. A little bit of warmth in here, Connor. I see a lot of crystals, pretty white. If you like your minimalism, decor, then you can't get any better than this. It's pretty cool. Speaking of cool, we are looking at Superman: Peace on Earth, as mentioned, Connor. And again, just overall thoughts on this. So 1998 you mentioned.
Yep. So overall thoughts on this issue?
Yeah.
I think it is definitely one of the sort of quintessential entry-level stories for Superman. It adds a dimension to the character which I think a lot of people aren't aware of. Which is, why, like, he's so powerful, why doesn't he, like, how does he have any challenge? That sort of thing.
Yeah.
Like, how does he have any struggles? Why can't he just, do everything and fix everything? And I think this
very good point.
Issue is only maybe even written as a response to that. I'm not sure, but...
Yeah, I get the sense of that.
Yeah.
And so what was it that struck out? Was it the story that struck out? What was the thing that struck out for you? The art? The art is we'll get into that. That's a thing on its own. But, I mean, what was it that really kind of made it stick in your mind, this issue?
Well, the the issue did have an impact on me back when I first read it years ago. I don't think it's because I've probably read so much other stuff. It doesn't have as much of an impact as it did back then, but it did back then. Plus, I think it's a very important Superman story, and I think it's still relevant today.
Yeah.
There was a lot of elements of this story in Batman vs Superman, believe it or not.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's as you mentioned. What I found was I was really impressed with this. So, you gave me those 4 of your top books.
Yeah.
And I just had to say, okay, this has got to be one of them. And number 1 is obviously the art. I think I mentioned to you, I've never seen Alex Ross do a complete issue of something. He's been fantastic with covers, so to actually see him carry a whole story across was just mind-blowing for me. The second one, as you mentioned, the story, and it's so important because, as you say, there's that thing where you can go, well, Superman, is he overpowered? Can't he just do everything? And this story outlines, if you give it a bit more thought and add a bit of realism to it, then you can see that even Superman, even someone this immense power, can't solve everything.
Yeah.
He's not the answer to everything. And in that sense, it kind of shows him, and we see it in this, we see him fail, and it shows him vulnerable. And this is one thing that you hardly see Superman do, and vulnerable in the sense that it's not a supervillain. It's not your Doomsday or your Brainiac. Is he pretty big? Or your Grapefruit Mongol? It's just him trying to do good, and it's just too vast for him. It's too vast for Superman, and that's what I really enjoyed about this issue.
Yeah.
So have you got your issue out there, Connor?
Yes, I do.
Be careful not to get too much polar bear fur and blood on it.
And Cheetos, yeah.
Cheetos. All right, well, let's kick us off. Connor, who have we got on creative duties?
So the story is by Alex Ross and Paul Dini. The text is by Paul Dini, and the art is by Alex Ross. And Superman was created by Jerry Siegel and Joe Shuster. Paul Dini, if you guys don't know, he wrote a lot for the Batman animated series and the Superman animated series.
Okay.
Back in the 90s, so
right.
And he's also a pretty good comic writer as well.
Yeah, it's a pretty solid story. I didn't know Alex Ross did the story as well, or does that mean that he probably did the layouts or something?
Oh no, he that Kingdom Come I linked to you earlier. He was a co-writer on that story as well. So
cool.
He's just more known for his artwork. But
yeah. Oh wow.
I guess when he does the stories, it's usually a collaboration as opposed to just solely Alex Ross.
Yeah, he needs probably a little bit of assistance. Fair enough. Okay, that's he's got a lot on his plate doing the artwork, which is just my god.
And sometimes collaboration is just funner.
Yeah, true.
True. Otherwise, that's the reason I'm co-hosting an Iron Fist podcast and not just doing it by myself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it is fun. Yeah, to bounce off each other. Yeah, true.
Yeah.
All right, so let's get into it. And what I noticed also, Connor, is a lot of this is landscape.
Yeah,
which is good. Nice. It kind of gives a broad sense of everything. And we get a really quick recap of Superman in general. I guess
pretty much.
Yeah, planet.
So, what do you think has been shown more? Do you think Krypton's blown up more, or Batman's parents have died more?
Oh, God, I was about to say Batman's parents, but in retrospect, thinking now, it's probably Krypton as well, isn't it? Oh, yeah. It's they really do hammer that home.
Yeah.
But it's still fun to watch here, again, with Alex Ross art. So there's a nice sepia kind of tone to this, all in the first panel. The only colour...
It's very, wheaty.
Very wheaty,
that makes sense.
Very earthy. So, and we get an introduction to his parents, who are the Kents, obviously, on a farm. So, as you mentioned, very wheaty. A quick recap of him growing up and discovering his powers. We get a nice little nod to, the classic Superman cliche of leaping tall buildings, single bound. Faster than a locomotive, I guess.
Yeah.
So a little
more powerful than locomotive.
More powerful than a locomotive. Yeah.
It gets confusing because there's always like getting mixed and matched, and shaping mighty rivers and stuff.
Oh wow,
it's very confusing.
There's more to it.
Yeah.
Oh, there's like a.
Oh yeah.
It's like the Australian
there's
anthem.
More.
There's another verse to it. We don't know. And the good thing about this first page, I think, is that what immediately pops out is the big S with the blue as he changes to Superman, and
because that's the only color there besides like the white and sort of wheat brown. Like that's the only color on the page.
Yeah, so it really draws your eye to it very well, and the logo as well, which is very well known. I think you wouldn't find anyone, comic lover or not, who wouldn't know that kind of logo.
I remember reading, wasn't it like up there with the cross? It's like the most well-known symbol on the planet.
Yeah. Is Superman?
Like the S logo.
Yeah. Wow. Cool.
I think it's behind the cross. Well, I kind of hope it's behind the cross. I don't know why I hope it's behind the cross. It would just make sense. But yeah.
Yeah. True. I mean,
actually, Batman's is.
I was about to say
as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think he'd be around the same.
Yeah. I'm about to say both of those big two would probably be it. I think.
Yeah. But there's I want to point out the third panel at the bottom of the page, where he's a kid standing there. That's pretty much just a recreation from Superman issue 1 all the way back in 1939.
Oh wow, nice Easter egg.
Yeah, the Superman seems very golden agey. He's drawn. Alex Ross seems to draw him as an older person as well. Like he looks about 40 to 50. Yeah,
he does. Can I just also mention the lighting that Alex Ross does here? That panel that you mentioned, but even the one before it with the Kents looking down at the baby, just fantastic. My God.
Yeah.
My God, it's really good. It's so detailed. Like, I don't know what the original prints are of these. They're probably way bigger. Like, huge.
Man, can you imagine?
Yeah, to get that detail, fantastic.
Well, he gets. I know he gets a lot of real life people to model.
Yep. Yeah.
And base off.
Which is common. Just references. Yeah, a lot of artists. A lot of them model themselves, like do poses themselves, and just take.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. You'd have to I guess know how the body works properly and draw it properly.
Yeah.
But then we have. Did you want to mention anything about the text here in between, or?
Well, they just have like an opening, like little letter from each of the writers, and a thing in the middle saying for Superman himself who inspires us all. It's pretty much just them saying, "Oh, thanks."
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, so some thanks from the authors and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I admittedly I did gloss over that, so I'm glad that there wasn't much to
that's
it.
Fair enough.
Yeah. So yeah, next we get we're still in the wheaty kind of the tone of the book.
Yeah.
And Superman is, and this is an important bit, I think, because it comes back at the end.
Definitely.
So Superman and his dad. What's his name again? The Kent.
Jonathan.
Jonathan Kent. Yeah.
Yeah.
So they're sowing seeds in the fields, and he's basically telling Superman, look, scatter them evenly and don't throw them in clumps. Give them enough space. He goes, because not all of them will grow. That's a given, but you at least give. You give them a chance, and
each one needs the chance to grow.
Yeah, which is really cool.
And he used to say the same thing about people. Some blossom right away, while others needed a little extra care.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then that segue, he says, "It seems I hear my father's voice more clearly at this time of year," and it segues into Christmas.
Yes.
And Superman's flying in Metropolis with a big old tree.
Yeah. Yeah, and I can just say as well, again, what really impresses me, not only of the art, but just the shots that Alex Ross takes. So this is a really nice kind of, I guess, what do you call it, undershot, and at an angle as well. And I can only just imagine how difficult it is to draw this, but it's really cool. So it's worth savouring and having a look at. But yeah,
definitely.
Yeah. And as you say, very classic Superman. He's carrying a huge tree in. And it's not your typical tree because it is going to. Does it mention the spots? Is it in? I guess it's in the middle of Metropolis. Like it's it's like a public. It must be. It's a public display. So
he's putting the tree down for I think it's for the city.
Yeah, like similar to, isn't there like a big one in New York City that they light up all the time? Everyone looks at. This is, I think, similar in Metropolis.
Okay.
Yeah,
and he mentions this is like a yearly thing he does.
Mm-hmm. Nice tradition. So and that's all it's all going well. It shows him they're quickly decorating it as well.
Yeah,
cool
he just
that?
goes super speed around it and
yeah,
lights it all up.
And they all wave. And what is really cool as well here, and again a sense that I get from the other Superman comics is this, and it's shown in Batman vs Superman as well. This urge that people want to kind of be near him, and whether it's the media or people just giving their thanks to him. It seems he's super popular. Just because what he does in general.
But he can never really stay
for
long because he's always got somewhere else to be.
Yes.
Which is occasionally when he's flying away and he hears a cry for help in the crowd. Mm-hmm. So he goes down and he picks this girl up. And first, he thinks she's in shock or something from the amount of people, but then it turns out she's literally starving to death, pretty much.
And this kicks off the whole major story, really. Just this little
definitely.
Small thing. Yeah, well, I shouldn't say small or insignificant because it is important. She's starving and she needs help. But what at first looks like a very simple task that Superman does of bringing her to a shelter and giving her food and stuff, it actually opens his eyes to this whole thing, I guess, about people starving and people in need and the homeless during the holidays.
Because he seems a bit more introspective. And there's a great line here where he's dressed up as Clark Kent and he walks out and what is it he's saying? I walk through bright streets bustling with life. Charles Dickens once decreed this season as a time when want is keenly felt and abundance rejoices. Sadly, the first part of that statement is often ignored, as if acknowledging the unfortunate among us would dampen the merriment of the holidays. And I think that line can, be pretty applicable to definitely hits home for me.
Well, just in life in general, right? It's
definitely. But at times like Christmas roll around and there's just some it's a time of big celebration, but sometimes that just doesn't change for everyone else.
Exactly.
Who's there starving or
yeah. I know it's a tough line because in one sense we are due our merriment as well and our joy.
Oh, I'm not trying to guilt trip.
No, but not at all. And I'm not saying that you are or whatever. But there is that balance because rightly so, as you say, but there are these things that we do need to consider, and whether or not you consider them outside these eventful times or not. We'll speak to, I guess, how we as humans and humanity should be helping each other, so... Yeah,
I guess this goes into that a lot, how humans kind of react
to exactly.
a lot of these things, and how we deal with these problems.
Yeah, it really does on a larger scale compared to the Daredevil one. It's similar in the sense that the one that we did, but this is a larger scale. We're talking about humanity in general here, as opposed to... I guess you could say the same with Daredevil, but it seemed like just really smaller scale, just very black and white because it's they're like criminals or mean people in general.
I mean that was a day in the life of Daredevil, and this is kind of a day in the life of Superman. Yeah, where he's thinking these big questions.
Yeah, and he's got the power. He's got power to do stuff. So.
I mean, I guess all this sort of stuff kicked off with. Have you ever heard of the issue "Must There Be a Superman"?
No.
That was that was like a huge issue in the Silver Age. That was like one of the... I think that was probably the first issue that ever kind of attempted to deconstruct the character, because it's like, is he really good for humanity? Is he just like... is humanity just getting lazy around him and stuff? Like, how much should he help? And I'm not saying this issue's doing that, but I'm saying that's what really kicked off all of this sort of his relationship with the world around him, as opposed to him just kind of, standing up for people or beating up bad guys.
Yeah. Oh, it just shows the level of depth that you can go into with Superman. As you say, it's not just beating up bad guys and fighting super space villains or whatever.
Which is still awesome.
It is still, for sure, but you can drop him into this very introspective, as you say, scenario. And it really does, I found it really did make you think. It was really good. So then I'm just looking at this gorgeous art. We get him in the shelter. The face is almost photographic, there's a pleading Dr. Mason.
Because he's gone in as Clark Kent to check up on how she's doing, and pretty much under the guise of it's a story he's following up. And so again, he doesn't seem too interested in his work's Christmas holiday party. He's now kind of focused on this thing, and so he's seen in the archives, kind of looking at a lot of, I guess, photos and pictures on victims of starvation, and he pretty graphic photos, really.
They are, aren't they? They obviously must be based on real photos. I must say, I do love Alex Ross's art there, and Clark Kent though. And this is probably an old cliche as well, but if you can't tell that guy is Superman. He is pretty muscle bound as a journalist, isn't he? He's got that big square jaw, but it's pretty cool.
I do want to actually address. I'm not going to go on a huge rant or anything, but with the whole how come people don't know Clark Kent is Superman thing.
Oh yeah, that would be interesting to know. Yeah.
There's always there's the obvious thing. Well, he acts different, or he uses some like Kryptonian techniques or whatever. But the main thing is that people forget. No one has any reason to think that Superman has a secret identity.
Yeah, right.
Like, that's the big thing. It's like, well, they just assume Superman is always Superman. I mean, like, I think pretty much everyone knows like that Superman has a fortress somewhere.
Yeah.
So they don't assume that he's disguised as...
So they don't assume that he's walking among us. Like,
Yeah. Now, the case for Lois Lane not knowing that Clark is Superman, that's different. But, like, the average person, I think, just has no reason to suspect that. But, one of the things I did like that the new movies did is that she figured it out pretty much straight away. So, Yeah. I mean, because she's supposed to be, like, one of the best reporters, so...
Her sleuthing would, for sure... figure it out towards the end. I always did love the depiction of what Christopher Reeve did with his two Clark Kent. He was. I mean,
he did it so good that I think you could believe that she would be able to figure it out.
Oh, no, for sure, it's really good. Yeah. So as we go on here, he starts to become more introspective again on his dad as a farmer. And it's his dad here who's telling him that, people always have problems with sharing. This is the reality of the world, unfortunately. And this is humanity as we know it. And it takes a special person with no personal agenda to show the world, because there's enough in the world. Jonathan Kent saying there is enough for everyone to have, It's only because people start, hoarding things for themselves or not sharing, blah blah blah. So he said that the world, there's a lot to offer, and it's a good lesson here, and it prompts Superman to actually do something. And
he says he's not under any delusion that he is that person with no personal agenda. He says he's pretty much just a guy that tries to be there for other people.
Yes.
Which is important. He looks upon his powers as a gift.
Yep.
You know, not for him, but for anyone who needs them.
Yeah, yeah. Which is important that it was said that as well, because you're right. It could come across that, you know, oh, maybe I am the Messiah, you know?
Like, Messiah complex, which he just doesn't have at all.
So, no, that was good. And you see some beautiful art here again, from anything from pushing up a bridge, it seems, to helping people in a flood, to... I love this of the fire, of saving people in the fire. Alex Ross, again, really does really good work with the fire, and the colorist, whoever that is really good. He goes on, and again, there are more incidences here of him lifting a train, showing his might, basically. And
just rescuing people, saving a plane falling out of the sky.
But these are this goes up a level, you know, as you turn the page. This is next level awesomeness here, you know, holding a plane up and a train. So we get the sense of Superman. You know, he's not, you know, he's way above a normal person. So, and again here it's not my place to dictate policy for humankind, but perhaps the sight of me fighting hunger on a global scale would inspire others to take action in their own ways. So he wants to lead by example. He doesn't want to do it. He doesn't want to solve it himself. He actually wants to. He actually wants to. I think it's mentioned here later on or whatever. He wants to. There's a saying for it. He doesn't. He wants to, anyway. He wants to lead by example. We'll get to it. I'm sure it's there somewhere.
Yeah.
And so he goes to Congress, and he
he's like, "Hey guys."
Yeah, well, this is how it goes, you know. I mean, you can't do anything by going, you know, without going past the, you know, the authorities and all that first. So he's doing all the right things here. He tells them that there is another way, that things can be done, and I guess he's basically, there are other agendas. Obviously, there are a multitude of reasons, you know, companies and such, and profit and all that, not wanting to share. But
he can hear the whispers of like the people going, "Ooh,
yeah,"
you know. But eventually, it is approved.
Yep.
I mean, even if they said no, he probably would have done it anyway.
Yeah, I think so. I think he would have.
Like,
yeah. Well, that is a big point, though. Morally, would he? I mean, like, you wouldn't.
Oh, definitely. Like, there's, because you get the Golden Age Superman was like, he's kind of like anti-establishment, really.
Okay.
Like, he was very just stand. It was very stand up for little guy, screw the man. And then over time he became kind of like very lawful because of the Comics Code Authority. Mm-hmm. But like even then, like, he generally, like, he will just, like, if he has to, he will, like, go past.
Right.
Like, the law will never stop him from doing the right thing, I guess, is what I'm trying to say. Which is one of my problems with The Dark Knight Returns, is they show that Superman's kind of like a slave to the government.
Oh, okay.
And that's just like a big no-no for me, I guess.
Yeah.
Like, he's definitely not a slave to laws and stuff.
Yeah, I think he's probably very akin to, I think we mentioned this before as well, maybe Captain America as well, and that was shown in Civil War.
And Winter Soldier.
And Winter Soldier going against it. If he feels it's not right, then same with Superman.
Pretty much,
yeah. So we get
a very comparison, actually. Oh.
Yeah, I mean, I think they're both very, very similar in a lot of regards. So what we have here is Superman with a lot of shipping containers, filling it up with grains and he's standing up to hunger. So he's doing all the work. He's literally doing the work himself as well. He's pulling those wheat harvesters, it seems.
Yeah, and he spends a few days gathering these crops and stuff as well.
Yeah,
he does mention that there is volunteers that come to help him package the food.
Yeah, but he does the bulk of it. Surely with his super speed and stuff, he'd get it done in no time.
Yeah, I'm not actually sure how powerful this one is though.
Oh, okay.
This version of Superman. Probably not like I don't think he could just like. You can't fly around the world in a second.
Yeah, right. You can't move planets or anything like that.
No.
Has he ever been able to do that? Or no?
Oh God.
No? Yeah?
The Silver Age insanity. You would like literally just chain a bunch of planets together and just run around with them.
Wow. That's pretty high level power.
Oh, he got hit with the Nerf hammer hard in the 70s. They're just like, wait, he's just way too... Like, they just kept adding powers to him. So they're just like, oh, look, we just need to dial this down a bit.
Yeah, otherwise you're going to paint yourself into a corner, basically.
Yeah. I'm guessing one of the most... Like, because obviously one of the most common complaints is he's too overpowered. And I'm going to go out on a limb and say that probably comes from the Christopher Reeve movie, right?
Oh, about him doing the whole Axis thing.
Yeah, he just goes back in time and just saves everyone.
I would have loved to have been a fly on the wall for the comic book collectors and fans during that day. And, you know, if there was the internet back then, what that uproar would have been like, or, you know, what sort of discussion about Superman.
Well, everyone really liked the movie.
Yeah, but would that be a big sticking point, turning back time?
Well, I guess... He can never really do that in the comics because obviously he can't just go back in time and fix everything. But in the movie, there was like a thematic theme of because his dad dies at the start of a heart attack.
Yeah.
And there's the whole theme of you can't save everyone. Yeah. And you know you're not allowed to mess with human history. But then at the end he does it anyway.
Yeah.
And I feel like there's some sort of lesson there, but I'm not sure what it is because it's like the whole thing setting up, you can't save everyone, and then he's just like, nah, screw it, I'm gonna go back in time and save everyone. So I'm just not sure. I just don't really know what to make of that ending, honestly. Like it was definitely intended to have some sort of narrative purpose. Yeah. I think it was more of a narrative thing than a look at how awesome this power is, but I just don't really get what that narrative thing was supposed to be.
Yeah. Who knows? Maybe it's a case of a 16-year-old kid who just wanted the most powerful person ever.
Well, the guy who wrote The Godfather wrote that, right?
Oh, really?
Yeah, but his script was considered too campy, so the director made it more grounded.
Richard Donner.
Yes, yeah. Richard Donner. I don't forget his name.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
Oh, one more bit of trivia. Marlon Brando wanted to be a floating green bagel, so...
What?
Yeah, not joking.
A floating green bagel?
Yeah, he thinks his head should have been represented by, like, this floating green bagel instead.
Wow.
Yeah.
Maybe he was... oh, God. Maybe he still thought he was...
He went crazy.
Yeah, that's what I was about to say. Maybe he just thought he was from Apocalypse Now or something.
Yeah, it's pretty funny though.
Oh, gosh. Well, if there was a director's cut of that, I'd love to see that. But anyway.
I think one just came out, actually.
I mean, of the green bagel. I mean, that would be cool.
Oh, right. Yeah. No, I just wanted to clear up. Superman can't go back in time.
Yeah.
Not that much anyway. I don't know.
Well,
because I remember you said to me you thought he was... like really overpowered. Like, is that where your perception of that came from, or?
Yeah, it was, and just I guess being a non-follower of the comics, just these assumptions you just make, and I just assumed because from the movies and from the little things from the comics I've seen and all that sort of stuff, I just got the impression that and you know all these other characters that have come since that mimic him in a sense, like, you know, Sentry from Marvel or Hyperion from Marvel. They're massively powered. So again, I just associate that with Superman going, okay, well, he's probably as powerful as them, and can he do all that stuff? And that's where, that's where it all comes from. But
that makes sense.
Yeah, but I do.
So I was just wondering, really.
I've got no credible, sources where it came from. It was just all mass assumptions from just taking it in.
The internet comic pages being posted.
That's it. Yeah, exactly. But I do love the level of power here in this Peace on Earth is quite good. I think. I mean, he's
I went way off tangent there.
No, that's fine. That's fine. He's quite awesome here, basically with his power, but he's not. Yeah, as you said, he's not hauling planets around or turning back time.
No.
So he certainly can do a lot, and what we see here in the American Southwest, we see a lone elderly figure. He's just trying to get some firewood as winter is coming on, to try and, obviously stay afloat through the harsh times. And we have Superman here with a shipping container full of grain and food, coming in to basically help him out, and I'm assuming it does help him out a lot, him and his town. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah, I do love the bit earlier how they mentioned a lot of people think that this is just some scam that he's doing.
Oh yeah, whether it's a scam, there's constant demands for interviews and statements. Yeah,
it's like it always makes it like just some utter hatred people have for Superman, and it's like, I mean, even if you think he's boring and overpowered, like, why do you hate a guy who's just like a good person so much?
Well, this is if anything, it's a mirror on people themselves, and showing I can't believe someone is this selfless. Surely that can't be right. No, because everyone else I know, surely they wouldn't do that. There's always a little something, that someone wants to gain from it. So it kind of, is a really confronting mirror we see of people when they do.
Yes, like even when you present this objectively selfless person, people are still like, reacts negatively.
Which is...
no, you're right, it is.
It's which is again it's a little statement on humanity or
I guess again, Batman v Superman went into that a lot again. I know that's quite the controversial movie, but it's pretty meta in that sense. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of sequences in there where he's just trying to do the right thing, and everyone's just pretty much just calling him an asshole. So
yeah, I've got to watch that again. I've seen it about 2 times.
Really?
I've enjoyed the second... Did I see the Ultimate Edition? I can't remember. Have you seen it a lot more, or...?
I saw the theatrical once, and that was enough for me, but I saw the Ultimate Edition a couple of times. And the Ultimate Edition is a big step up. Fixes pacing issues, puts a lot of Superman content back in there. Okay. Which makes it...
Which would be good for the fans like yourself.
Well, it was also really important to the narrative, because without those scenes, a lot of the movie didn't make sense.
Okay. Yeah, I think I've seen the theatrical. I think I've seen the theatrical release twice. I haven't seen the Ultimate one yet. So
I'd watch the Ultimate if you enjoyed the theatrical, definitely.
So the Ultimate Edition and the director's cut of Daredevil, I've got to have on my list for sure.
Both big improvements.
Yeah, good. That's great. I mean, sometimes director's cuts aren't, because there's a reason why things are edited, but other times they were stifled. The director's vision is stifled, and to show their true vision, you need to really see the director's cut.
Yeah, I mean that there is that whole thing. Zack Snyder, like, they made him cut heaps of stuff and just add more Batman scenes, but there's also the thing. It's like, why are you trying to make a 3.5-hour blockbuster movie? Like, don't write a 3.5-hour blockbuster movie script, because they're never going to let you do it.
Yeah, exactly.
So, I think blame is everywhere there. But...
Yeah. So,
Rio,
we get here. Fantastic shot. Again, nice angled, high perspective. Shot of Rio, and it's really terrible. I do know that iconic statue, but I don't know the name of it. Just the one of Jesus.
Cristo Generis or something.
You are way more cultured than I am, so that's good. It's good.
If you get hate mail, then you'll know I'm not. So
okay. But we have again Superman, which I assume. We don't see it, but I'm assuming it's another shipping container he has of some bounty that he will.
Yeah.
Send
I think he's carrying boats of them.
Oh wow.
Because, like, obviously you can have heaps of shipping containers on boats. So.
That's true, and it doesn't really look like... I know it's silly. It doesn't really look like a shipping container from this angle, but it's pretty hard to tell. But
could also be a big bomb.
That's it. Well,
it's gone crazy.
You can have a... He did. He just decided to nuke them all. Let's hope not.
No.
Yeah, because look, he goes on the next page. He's back on shipping containers in the favelas in Brazil, and we see the gutters, the ghettos. A lot of people, sleeping in the alleys and struggling to eat and such. Superman comes down here again with his shipping container, and we get that. This is a very typical, I think, of Superman. Again, harking back to BVS. The people kind of not clawing at him, but reaching out to him as in some sort of.
Well, he's looking happy here.
Yeah,
he
is
not happy in BVS when people were doing that.
Well, I think later on here as well, we see that there's like another version of this where he gets really.
That's true, actually. Yeah,
he gets really uncomfortable. So this is a nice little setup. He's going, this is all pretty good. It's nice to see.
Rio is also the first example of he points out that there's no middle ground between wealth and poverty.
Yeah.
Like this whole city is just, and I mean I've known people who've gone to Rio. It's supposed to be pretty crime ridden.
Yeah.
Not sure if it's still like that, but I've heard some horror stories.
Well, I mean, I think it goes hand in hand, doesn't it? Like if there is poverty and stuff, I mean, you are going to get that sort of stuff. I mean, I've heard the same stories in Papua New Guinea as well. Crime rate is quite high, but again, that's what happens when I guess you're pushed. And you're in that situation. So and
then he goes to unnamed war-torn European country.
So you're truly global, right? Yeah, this is really cool. I like it. So the moment it went to Eastern Europe, I'm assuming it's Eastern Europe because, war-torn European country. It's called. It's like, for me immediately it's like, okay, great, we're going all over the world here, and a very different palette here with colours. Immediately it's like a colder, icier kind of look.
Definitely.
Very drab. We've got, looks like bombed or run down buildings in the background. And again, the facial expressions. I did spend some time looking at these faces as well, and I think a lot of them are they're very European, Eastern European looking, I think so.
I love how he describes them just going up, taking the food, and just silent as ghosts, pretty much.
That's scary, isn't it? Like it's
there's no worship or anything. They just
a very big difference from Brazil, and then when someone asks, a little child asks a little boy, will you come back tomorrow? He can't face him. Which is. He's starting to see the grimmer aspects of it all, and although he's doing good work, it's
starting to sort of dawn on him.
He's doing good work, but it's not all cheers and you're so good and thank you. It's getting a lot of the hardships. And here we go. You're right, Connor. Later on, as he crosses what looks to be the African and then the Asian continents, he's carrying the whole ship all full of containers. And he flies as fast as he can, crisscrossing the globe many times in order to keep my promises. I'd be
because he can't do this every day.
No,
he points out.
And he said, and what's real irony here as well, I think he says it will probably provide only a day's relief. All this massive work that he's doing. It really is not like a long-term thing. But
no, it's not a long-term solution.
So it's starting to kind of really, as you say, dawn on him the magnitude of this problem. So returning to Africa, we see again him, which is again fantastic. He's got a huge sack. He's like a blue and red Santa, with a lot of grains, filling the bowls for people. Very dusty. And
it is a bit of a Santa thing, isn't it?
It is, yeah. But there's a bit of that's right. I've just remembered here. There is a bit of a sequence here now because there's a brush fire that happens.
Yeah.
So this causes a bit of a drama here. And I just wanted to say, beautifully rendered drawings of animals here. By Alex Ross. I think that's one of the things for me for artists. If obviously you can draw characters and scenery and stuff, but if you can get animals right, then you're doing very well. And this photographic quality is really fantastic. So anyway, for the stampede that's coming towards the village, Superman builds a really haphazard trench by just basically ploughing through the ground himself, and that kind of stops the creatures from actually going any further. But it still doesn't stop a few going through.
Yeah, and he's wrestling them like the elephant and the rhino. And I love the shot of the lion. Like, it's like trying to kill him, and he's just like happily hugging it.
He's got a bit of he has a bit of that Christopher Reeve look there, I think.
Definitely, yeah.
But a bit of a like a smirk of amusement of that. So yeah, I like that as well. And then he also creates a tornado or water. What does he do? He spirals some water all the way up, and he puts out the fire, which is a nice, fantastic thing to do.
Yeah, it pretty much sucks the fire in, just...
Oh, okay, he sucks the fire. Yeah.
I don't know, but it's crazy.
It's crazy. It's only Superman can do it. Now, this bit here, Connor, this is pretty cool. And again, we really do see more of the darkness of humanity here.
Yeah, he comes to this grinning guy, and he mentions he knows this guy, like, as a reporter. Yeah. He knows of this military despot.
And he doesn't...
he's come across a warlord, pretty much.
Yeah, and he does not look impressed. Nice facial expression there of Superman.
Yeah, just disgust, really.
Not happy at all, yeah. And rightly so, because they've got the guns trained on the people, and it's basically a standoff. The despot doesn't want Superman to deliver the goods because... He wants Superman to deliver the goods to him and not because Superman will know that this guy will just pretty much keep it all for himself. Yeah, but for the despot, he doesn't want to be undermined by having Superman go past him and straight to the people. So there's a bit of a power play thing here, and what Superman does, I think, actually. What actually surprised me was then when he said he called his bluff and he started throwing the food to the people. But then I was reminded it's Superman. Like, he can handle it, because I think, oh God, what's going to happen? And they shoot the people, but Superman is too quick for them, and he blocks them all, and he melts their guns, which is a really nice rendition there. There's one with one soldier gasping out loud there.
Yeah, he's like, oh.
As the guns are too hot for them. And again, we get the shaking fist. Oh my gosh, that's fantastic. The despot.
You see the red eyes Superman has there.
Yeah, fantastic.
His heat vision's going off as well.
Yeah.
So he pretty much just dumps the food near the villages and then just leaves because he realizes that he'll just bring more soldiers and stuff, and like his presence is going to cause more trouble.
Yeah.
If this was Golden Age Superman, he probably would have like killed him or just thrown him very far away. But Golden Superman's shenanigans have been addressed because he tried to do that in an issue a few years ago, and that ended very badly for everyone. So yeah. You can't just overthrow military despots easily, unfortunately.
No, and this is the important thing here as well. I think in the first instance, although Superman wins the battle here by stopping the guns and stuff, he flies away. He can't really resolve this situation. So
no, he can't.
This is the first little defeat, I think you'd mark up for Superman here.
Yeah, and then he goes to a village. And people are just too afraid to come out, so he just has to leave the grain in the middle of the street pretty much, and the rats come out.
Yeah, it's even worse.
Start eating it. Yeah.
It kind of takes a downward, and here we go, the next page as well. It takes a downward spiral, so to speak. The people claw at him. The faceless sea of hands rushes up to meet him, and the tearing fingers barely register anything against my skin because, of course, he's so strong. But he can hear the rasping breath of their lungs, the frantic beating of each heart, and they just overwhelm him. So he's left with nothing but to escape from them. And what he does is a pretty impressive thing. He does again, is it Superman 2? Where he does the spiraling drill?
Superman 1, I think.
Superman
where
1.
He just drills down.
Yeah, which is pretty cool. So he escapes via, subterranean methods. Yeah.
They're just, clutching at him. It's kind of like a drowning person. Like, they just don't really... they're that desperate. They don't think.
Yeah. And he says,
they're just...
Yeah. He says, if I stay, they'll rip one another to pieces to get to the food. So this is,
getting pretty grim.
Very grim, yeah. So again,
and there's people throwing rocks at him and stuff when he gets there because they think he's like a political activist or a fraud or something.
Yeah.
So they just like flat out don't want the food.
It's not looking good for him, and it's all kind of turning pear-shaped for what he
It gets
thought.
worse.
And it gets worse as well. If we thought rocks were bad and clawing hands, as he's moving a shipment across, we get the military just concerned about Superman's deeds, and they fire a missile at him. And they
it's another despot. They're pretty much like, don't bring this food down. And then he tries to bring it down, and they fire a missile and blow up his
stash. But it's a calculated move because it's not there to obviously kill Superman. What it is that it poisons the food, which makes it and you get a very... This is the lowest ebb here. You get Superman on his knees, and is at wit's end. His mission ends here, incomplete and in failure.
He's pretty much holding the remains of the food because there was toxic in the missile, which has just completely poisoned the ground. He's just kind of sitting there. He's just been defeated pretty much.
And so this really harks back to Jonathan Kent's vision, or words to him, that there's enough stuff out there, but people tend to not share, not be forgiving, and he's seeing this on the larger scale, where he's actively trying to help, and they're killing themselves basically, these humans. So so then he's kind of reflecting as he has headed back home, and it's people saying that Superman's mission has fallen short. And then there's basically he's just a little sad here, I think,
because he knows there's going to be people waiting for him to come again the next day as well.
Well, that's it. Yeah, that's it.
And it shows the people there waiting, just hoping that he'll be back. Yeah,
looking up into the sky, but it's not going to happen. And the last sentence here, then again, maybe I wasn't giving the right gift, which is pretty cool. So as Clark Kent, he actually manages to conduct an interview with Superman.
I do love this where he goes, it's time for a statement from Superman. To everyone's surprise except my own, Clark Kent gets the interview.
Exactly. And I'd like to read this as well, because as you know, I have always tried to provide comfort for those in want, pain and fear. Many times I'd considered taking stronger action to help the world, but I realised that such measures could be short-sighted and disastrous. I tried to relieve world hunger, but I encountered heartbreaking poverty, not only in the slums and wastelands of the world, but within selfish men's souls. And then he says, I now see that taking on this responsibility was too ambitious for one man, even a Superman. And right, that's it. Basically, you buggers are just too difficult. Basically, but it's not like he's given up as well. And in a beautiful shot here, again reminiscent of Christopher Reeve in the movies.
Definitely,
as he flies around, orbiting the Earth. He basically, what does he say here, Connor? He says, basically, help yourself, right?
Yeah, he says, the welfare of Earth and all its people will always be my primary concern, but if there's a solution to the problem of hunger, it must be one that comes from the compassionate heart of a man and extends outwards towards his fellow man. There's an old saying, give a man a fish and he eats for a day, teach him to fish and he eats for a lifetime. And that one line can probably summarize this whole issue. That was the
thing I was searching for, this saying, which basically sums it up. So help yourselves, to do it, because this is too vast, and I think it was a really good way to show the limits of Superman, basically, being that you think is so awesome in power. So, yeah, a very good message there. And then we're brought back to, in full circle, we have Clark Kent actually practicing what he preaches, and he has some small students or kids there which he teaches to sow seeds, similar to how his dad taught him when he was young and at the beginning of the issue. And again, I tell them not every seed will make it, but all of them deserve the chance to grow. So that was
goes
it.
Full circle at the end.
Goes full circle, and that was a really touching, issue, and it really does kind of, I don't know, it kind of made me step back a bit and go, ooh, this is really good, really well thought out. And the art was just fantastic. Again, I can't laud that enough. So, a fantastic choice there, Connor, and I can see exactly, why you would have picked it. It is a monumental book. I only hope the other ones, well, the Wonder Woman one at least, has as much weight as this one, because this was really an enjoyable read.
Yeah, I'd say the other ones are definitely checking out, even if it's just for the art alone. None of them. This putting Superman with this question and having him tackle this problem, I think, is just such a classic idea, and I just don't think any of the other books really came close to doing that for their characters. Like, they're good, but definitely. I guess, like, when I read this book, it impacted me because, I was trying to find out what I wanted to do with my life at that point. This definitely helped steer me towards learning to teach. And I did end up teaching for a bit as well. So, and I'll probably go teach again. It's
a really good example of just how to be a good human being as well.
Pretty much.
Which is, really nice. I mean, you don't get many comics where you're left with, this is what a good human being is, and this is how we can be better. There's a lot of entertainment. Nothing wrong with that, again, with it. But
nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, but this one was really good. I thought it was really good indeed. As for ratings here, Connor, I think we have to do this as well. Of course. So you gave 4.5, quite a high one for the Daredevil 304. What would you give Superman Peace on Earth?
God, why don't you go first?
Oh, okay. I would, and look, I'd take a little bit from what you said, that 5 is pretty much unattainable. Actually, having said that, my gosh, no, Connor Shu and I, we've gone crazy with Lemire ratings. So I will as well, because I was really, really impressed with this. I would give this a 7 out of 5.
Wow.
Bags of wheat. So it's really...
I was going to say sacks of grain.
I beat you to it. I'm really impressed with this. And only have I gone above and over the ratings with some of the Lemire issues in Moon Knight. But I really did enjoy this. You can't go wrong with the art, and the story was very touching. It was fantastic, the way it was formatted, everything. So, I'd give that. Not wanting to steal any thunder from you there, Connor, but...
I know, that's fine.
Yourself, then, how would you give this?
Well, I'm going to make it slightly more complicated and go 3.75 sacks of grain out of 5.
Oh, really? Okay. Right.
Yeah, I think it's a really good story. I think ultimately it's also a very simple story. I'm not saying that it's a bad thing.
Yeah.
It's a nice, simple story. It's got fantastic artwork. It explores, I think, it explores one aspect of Superman, but I think it's an essential aspect as well, because this just answers that question of, like, hey, why doesn't he do all these things?
Yeah.
So, but as for the downsides, I mean, I guess, I thought it was really good, just not perfect. I thought a couple of the lines were a bit like melodramatic.
Okay.
Like a bit sort of like a bit, maybe like just a bit, melodramatic, trying to tug my heartstrings. But I mean, ultimately, I still thought it was like a really great issue, and it's definitely something I would recommend people read.
Oh, for sure. Look,
yeah,
I would go so far as to say I wouldn't mind having getting the. Is it in a trade, or is it? Does it come out in any?
So, these were done separately, but the cheaper option, I believe it's called Absolute Justice. Yeah, it's called Absolute Justice League, the world's greatest superheroes by Alex Ross and Paul Dini, and that collects all of the stories. So Wonder Woman, Superman, Batman, and Shazam.
Right. Okay.
Might have been a Green Lantern one. I don't think so though.
But as in like a paperback, like a.
It's an absolute edition, so it's like a big hardcover and it has a sleeve with it as well.
Oh, even better. Yeah. Look, I can honestly say I'd love to, with my kid coming up, I'd love to someday read him this, take him through it.
Yeah, I mean, I'd pick up this hardcover because it has heaps of stuff, and then you can tell me how it is and if it's worth my money. So.
But fantastic. Yeah, brilliant. So check that out. I'll have the notes for this again in the show notes. But wow, mammoth episode here, Connor. I said we've cracked the 3-hour mark here.
Oh, have we broken a record?
We have. Yeah.
Yes.
That's awesome. I think it's the longest ITK so far. So episode 40, we've cracked.
Well, we're only halfway through because we still got your 4 issues.
Oh, of course. And let's go through page 1. No, that's been fantastic. It's been a really, really fun and insightful romp through your, I guess your treasured and your most important books to you, as well as obviously getting to know the man behind the Sons of the Dragon, Connor. So. It's been it's been great to have you on, and like to extend, not that I'm signing off yet or anything, but, just like to extend whenever you want. You should, you can pop on over to Grant Mansion, and, hopefully Khonshu will be here as well. Khonshu's at the Supernova comic book convention up in the Gold Coast here in Australia, which I believe you're going to as well, are you?
Yes, on Sunday.
Awesome. And I found out who, pardon my ignorance, I found out who Tom Welling was that you were talking about to me earlier.
Right.
So I had him advertised on the website, and I get it, Smallville. Yeah. So. Yeah.
I will not be meeting him, unfortunately, but.
I should still be fun. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it'll be good.
Be cool. Do you go to many conventions or?
No, I only went to that one other one where I met Dave Gibbons and Lex Luthor, so...
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, that was a hell of a first convention, though. God damn, get to sit down and talk about Superman 15 minutes with, one of my favourite artists, so...
Bloody awesome. That was Supernova as well, right? We've only got...
Yes.
Yeah. Australia's only really got limited amounts of comic book conventions, I guess.
Yeah, we don't have many.
yeah, but, I mean, that's great. I mean, you go there for the particular creative artists or, stars. It really makes a big difference, so... Should be fun. So Khonshu's there. He's whipping up a storm, no doubt. Swinging off a chandelier somewhere. Look, I guess just formally kind of like to thank you for coming on this show. Where can they find you, Connor, typically?
Okay, so typically you can find me at my home. The address. No, I'm kidding. So I run the Iron Fist podcast. So it's called Sons of the Dragon, the Immortal Iron Fist podcast. If you just Google Iron Fist podcast or Immortal Iron Fist podcast, you should find us pretty easily. Mm-hmm. We're on Facebook, Twitter. I'm on Twitter under Iron Fist podcast. We're on iTunes as well. Podcast Garden, SoundCloud. So we're and I'm sure there'll be a link in the show notes too.
Oh, definitely. And
thanks.
Yeah, no worries. And you're a member of the collective as well. We're all part of a bigger consortium of podcasters. So, again, I mean, on our blog site as well, we've got a link to all the podcasts there, which Sons of the Dragon are part of.
Yep.
That's great. Well, Loonies, I know it was a very non-Moon Knight-centric episode, but I really do hope you enjoy the discussion we've had with Connor. As I mentioned, go check out his podcast and page and Twitter accounts, and just tweet him any questions on any of maybe the issues that piqued any of your interests or any of the arcs he'd mentioned, like All-Star Superman, Daredevil Born Again, and Guardian Devil, or Joe Kelly's Deadpool, or as Connor mentioned as well, Stan Lee and Steve Ditko's Spider-Man. If you've got any other questions that you'd like to touch base with Connor, just look him up on those social platforms and drop him a line. Fantastic. Next phase, we will be joined by two loonies. Man on the Streets, Tommy Cavill, returns, as well as the power of Chad. Chad is another loony who we've had on the podcast before, and we are looking forward to chatting with them, along with Khonshu. Khonshu returns, talking Moon Knight Volume 9, Issue 194, which is the Bemis issue, and drawn by Ty Templeton. A very different issue, but you have a bit more time now to get your thoughts down and drop us a line. We'll be more than happy to read your feedback out on the show next week. Apart from that, there's an Infinity War roundtable discussion, which will be out soon by Capes and Lunatics. I pop in as a guest. Like a plague going out through all the podcasts. So I'll be there with Signal of Doom as well, another podcast from the collective, and I think Atalan Rising. So all those, plus Capes and Lunatics, of course, we're all part of the collective, and that's hosted by Phil from there. So keep your eyes out for that, and make sure you watch the film as well. And that...
Just get around to that.
Yeah, Connor, you should. I mean, I was about to ask, but I do know that you've just recently seen Black Panther, which is pretty cool. So it sets you up now for Infinity War, and you have to see it.
I'll be seeing it Tuesday.
Yes, excellent.
Cheap Tuesdays.
Fantastic. And if you can dodge spoilers still, just do it all. I hope you haven't been spoiled yet.
Well, I've asked you for spoilers. You haven't given them to me. So.
I know, which is a very weird request, but I've got Thanos tapping my shoulder, so I have to demand my silence. Well, he demands my silence. Alrighty, well, that's it for this episode. Connor, how about we head back onto the Mooncopter?
Alright, up and away.
And
couldn't resist.
No worries. Alright, and as always, may Khonshu watch over the denizens of the night. Catch you later.
I liked the May Connor watch you, but yeah. See ya.
Moon Knight and affiliated characters, stories and events are properties of Marvel Characters Incorporated. Materials used and discussed within the podcast are intended for critique and review purposes only under the fair dealing concept of the current Copyright Act. The views, information or opinions expressed during the podcast are solely those of the individuals involved and do not necessarily represent those of the copyright owners.